Chapter 893. The flower fairy continuously sent her power into Zhao Fu's body, and after 5 or 6 minutes, she took her hand away as a multicolored flower grew out of Zhao Fu's chest. This flower was not corporeal, but was condensed from light. The appearance of this flower caused Zhao Fu's injuries to gradually stabilize, and the crystal orb formed from phoenix qi within Zhao Fu's body gave off a large amount of phoenix qi, healing Zhao Fu's body. Xianru, who was beside Zhao Fu, could clearly sense these changes, and she marveled at the massive amount of phoenix qi's healing abilities. With the help of the flower and phoenix qi, Zhao Fu's injuries once again stabilized, and he started to show signs of improvement. This caused Li Si and the others, who had been incredibly worried, to let out a sigh of relief. In the next few days, Zhao Fu's injuries quickly recovered. Because Zhao Fu had not come out for a long time in the real world, Zheng Yuqin insisted on opening Zhao Fu's door. Seeing Zhao Fu lying on the bed covered with blood, Zheng Yuqin's face fell, and the entire Ying family was shaken. If something happened to Legatee Qin's representative in the Ying family, the consequences would be unimaginable. The family leaders all hurried over and ordered the best equipment and medicine to be used to save Zhao Fu. After hearing about this, Wu Qingyang stopped what she was doing and personally came to visit. However, when she saw that there were so many women by Zhao Fu's side, she couldn't help but frown. When did this boy become so lucky? There were so many women coming to visit him. However, there were a few people that she recognized, and they were most likely people from his school. Zhao Fu had most likely used his connections with the Ying family to protect them. The real world was in chaos, and everyone had to be careful when going out. She had no idea what had happened to Zhao Fu, but it was most likely that something had happened in the Heaven Awakened world. In the real world, he was protected by many layers of protection, and it was impossible for him to have suffered such a heavy injury without anyone knowing. Thinking back to the shocking battle from before, the destructive shockwaves had spread throughout all of China, causing countless people to feel as if they had fallen into a demonic abyss. There was only endless darkness and fear, and despair spread in their hearts, as well as a deep sense of powerlessness. Even though Wu Qingyang had not participated in the battle, she understood how terrifying it had been. In the face of such power, she only felt small and insignificant. Zhao Fu had most likely been caught up in the shockwaves of the battle, and Wu Qingyang felt that she could not allow Zhao Fu to stay by Imperial Prince Qin's side. It was simply too dangerous, and after he woke up, she had to talk to him and ask him to leave that terrifying Imperial Prince Qin. As his body in the Heaven Awakened world gradually recovered, Zhao Fu's body in the real world also started to recover. This allowed Wu Qingyang to let out a sigh of relief, and she left. During this period of time, Zhao Fu's maternal grandparents often came to visit Zhao Fu. They had wanted to stay and take care of Zhao Fu, but because there were people to take care of him, the Ying family did not allow it, so the two of them could only come to visit. Zhao Fu's aunts and uncles also came once or twice. After all, their luxurious lives were all given to them by Zhao Fu, and they were afraid that if Zhao Fu died, everything would be gone. As such, they came to visit. As for Zhao Fu's cousins, they did not come because they knew about Zheng Jiao and Mei Xiaoyan. This was especially so for Zhao Fu's cousin. Seeing how Mei Xiaoyan, who did not even let him touch her, acted so lewdly in front of Zhao Fu, he felt quite resentful toward Zhao Fu. However, now that the two of them had found good girlfriends, his resentment had lessened. However, he had also cut off all ties with Zhao Fu, so he did not come. It was now November, and the Heaven Awakened world had entered winter. The weather became quite cold, and the leaves on the trees in the morning were covered in frost. Everything was a grayish-black color, and it was time for all creatures to enter a deep sleep. At that moment, Zhao Fu, who had been asleep for more than a month, finally woke up. All of Qin City was filled with jubilant cheers, and Li Si and Bai Qi quickly rushed to his palace to see how His Majesty was doing. Just as Li Si and Bai Qi stepped into the palace, they heard a weak but dignified voice. "How long have we been asleep for?" Hearing this, Li Si felt quite delighted. He had never thought that Zhao Fu would start to refer to himself as we. Li Si had mentioned this before, but Zhao Fu had become used to referring to himself as I. Now that Zhao Fu had just woken up, he was referring to himself as we. It seemed that after being injured, Zhao Fu had changed a lot. Li Si replied softly, "Your Majesty, you were asleep for more than a month." Zhao Fu thought for a moment before asking, "What about after we?" Li Si respectfully replied, "Don't worry, Your Majesty. We've dealt with everything. Not only have we conquered the 5 dynasties, but we've also cleared out the surrounding regions, and we've started to construct the 3rd Great Wall in Qin City." Hearing Li Si's reply, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief and asked about what had happened over the past few days, to which Li Si answered in detail. Now that Zhao Fu had woken up, all of the ministers let out a sigh of relief and asked Zhao Fu about many things. Even though most things were discussed by many parties, there were some things that Zhao Fu did not like, so they had to ask about them one by one. After all, Zhao Fu was the king of Qin City. Over the past few days, Zhao Fu's body quickly recovered, and his injuries were mostly healed. However, his power had not fully recovered yet, and the 6 Paths Demon Image's power had also entered a weakened state. It was most likely that he would need to go to the Yinqi Valley for a while. On the first day that his injuries were healed, Zhao Fu first thanked the Flower Fairy and gave her some rewards. He also took out the revival pill and placed it in the Imperial Physician Pavilion in case something like this happened again. This time, Zhao Fu had never thought that his injuries would be so severe. However, the other 2 world protectors were not much better off either. After recovering, Zhao Fu could only wait for Zhao Fu to make concubines and refine the 5-nation armaments. Thinking about the 5-nation armaments, a trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face. Even though he had suffered such severe injuries, it was still somewhat worth it. The 5 dynasties that he had destroyed were the Shang Dynasty, Jin Dynasty, Sui Dynasty, Song Dynasty, and Qing Dynasty. The Shang Dynasty was one of China's 5 great ancient kingdoms, and during that battle, Zhao Fu had used the heart-killing sword to kill the Sui Dynasty, Song Dynasty, and Qing Dynasty legatees. CG and the other dynasty legatees immediately chose to run for their lives. However, Di Wutian refused to admit defeat and roared as he rushed over. However, he was immediately killed by Zhao Fu. Following this, Zhao Fu caught up to the Jin Dynasty's legatee, and just as he killed him, the 2 world protectors' powerful attacks landed on Zhao Fu, causing him to suffer heavy injuries. As such, they could only give up on chasing him. Chapter 894. Bai Qi had long since captured the women of the 5 dynasties for Zhao Fu, including their mothers, sisters, aunts, and cousins. Of course, there were also women from the legatees, and many of them were on the ancient beauty rankings. For example, Di Wutian's women included the 3rd-ranked Su Dafei, the 8th-ranked Zhao Hanyue, the 17th-ranked Xia Ji, the 20th-ranked Dong Xiaowan, and the 39th-ranked Li Hongzhu. The other dynasty legatees all had women on the ancient beauty rankings, as not only were they beautiful, but they also had large amounts of phoenix qi, which all dynasties needed. Su Dafei felt quite strange. Bai Qi had said that these people would have a chance to escape, but she had brought the Green Hill clan and countless treasures to wait for Qin's arrival. Speaking of Di Wutian's women, the number was really not small. Everyone had heard of his dissolute reputation. There were more than 300 of them, and all of them were extremely beautiful. There were young women, and all kinds of wives. It was said that Di Wutian's other hobby was to collect beautiful women. These women all had some phoenix qi, so Bai Qi had brought them back for Zhao Fu to refine his nation armament or enjoy. In actuality, Zhao Fu had been a virgin in the past, but as he grew older, it had weakened, so he did not care too much about it. In comparison, Zhao Fu was more inclined towards wives and mothers, and he liked them a bit more. Perhaps some people had long since discovered Zhao Fu's special fetishes, as most women had this attribute to them. Of course, there were also some people who did not notice. This was most likely related to Zhao Fu's childhood, but it was not too important, so there was no need to say too much. Towards these women, Zhao Fu had changed his way of thinking. As an emperor, the person with the most power in the world, he could do whatever he wanted without any restrictions. Of course, there were very few women who could move Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu did not even care about most of them. It was not that Zhao Fu did not respect women, but that was just Zhao Fu's personality, and he would give them what they wanted. Sitting on the dragon throne, Zhao Fu invited the women in. There were more than 500 of them, and 3/5 of them were from the Shang dynasty. Among the many women, the most eye-catching and enchanting was naturally Su Dafei. She had a pair of charming eyes that could seduce one's soul. The Green Hill clan was also a type of nine-tailed fox, and they had a natural charm. Actually, when Zhao Fu was recuperating, he heard Little Nine talk about this sister Su. As they were both nine-tailed foxes, Little Nine fell in love with Su Daji immediately. She was the only woman in the 5 dynasties who was given preferential treatment, and it was not because of Little Nine, but because she was good at talking and successfully convinced Li Si and many ministers. Secondly, she was willing to offer the entire Qingqiu tribe to Qin. Zhao Fu even summoned her personally, and indescribable things happened during that time. He was also a little surprised that she was still a virgin, and with Zhao Fu's flirtatious personality, he actually did not touch her. Su Daji's explanation was that the Qingqiu tribe had always liked to rely on the strong. Although the Shang dynasty was good, it was not the best, and they had not even built a country. She had promised Di Wutian that she and the Qingqiu tribe would be handed over to him after the country was built, but in the end, they were still destroyed by Qin. Zhao Fu now also understood why the outside world said that the relationship between Su Daji and Di Wutian was very vague. It turned out that Su Daji had always had a backup plan, and she did not wholeheartedly serve the Shang dynasty. However, the other women, namely Zhao Hanyue and the others, were not virgins. They looked at Zhao Fu with very complicated expressions. Originally, they were sent to the Shang dynasty by their families as Di Wutian's women, but now they were captured by Qin, and they could not control their own fate at all. This was the sorrow of women in troubled times. However, the only fortunate thing was that Qin's legatee treated women quite well, and he was not as ruthless and perverted as the rumors said. With Qin's great strength, they would be able to settle down in Qin's residence. After making them concubines, they provided a massive amount of phoenix qi to Qin. As expected from the women of 5 dynasties, the crystal pearl within Zhao Fu's body was affected by the phoenix qi and became a bit bigger. Following this, Zhao Fu took the 5 nation armaments that were no longer resisting and came to the heaven and earth refining formation, preparing to conduct the great world refining to refine the 5 nation armaments together. This required even more people to draw on the heaven and earth fate, and Qin did not lack this at all. After destroying the 5 dynasties, the corpses of the generals had all been refined and given to those who had made great contributions. Zhao Fu brought 25 people to the heaven and earth refining formation and placed the 5 nation armaments at the center of the formation. Zhao Fu could not help but feel a bit excited. After refining them, Qin would have another 5 nation armaments. If he had only relied on the 6 paths demon images in the previous battle, it would have been impossible to defend against the 2 world protectors and 11 dynasties. At that time, the nation armaments would be of great use. The 25 people obeyed Zhao Fu's orders and sent their fate into the magic formation. All of the energy stones within the jade channels were instantly turned into dust. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out throughout all of China, and countless people could not help but look towards Qin's direction. After that battle, Qin had once again become calm and focused on devouring the regions that he had conquered. Now, what was Qin going to do? However, there was no power that could stop Qin's footsteps. Just like Qin in history, the 6 dynasties were unable to stop Qin from unifying the world. The weather changed as clouds swirled and gusts of wind blew, causing sand and pebbles to fly and trees to sway. All of China sensed a massive wave of fate gathering towards Qin. This time, they were going to refine 5 nation armaments, so the amount of fate they needed was naturally massive. After all, China only had 12 nation armaments in total. That was almost half of the total. The massive rainbow-colored cauldron in the sky gave off boundless power as it stood between the heavens and the earth, seeming to suppress an entire world. Within the cauldron, the 5 nation armaments were being roasted by a formless flame. All traces of the 5 dynasties' auras were burned away, and Qin's fate madly flowed into them. The 5 nation armaments absorbed countless traces of Qin's fate and started to slowly go through changes. These 5 nation armaments belonged to China, and Qin also belonged to China. As such, they did not need any fate to directly refine them. A while later, all traces of the 5 dynasties' auras were burned away, and countless traces of Qin's auras and marks rose up from the 5 nation armaments. Boom! Another shocking explosion sounded out as the massive rainbow-colored cauldron turned into countless traces of fate and dissipated. The 5 nation armaments gave off terrifying might as they slowly descended from the sky. Chapter 895. The first was the star-plucking tower, which was 30 centimeters tall. There was a platform made of stone below it, and it took up 2/3 of its height. There were exquisite and luxurious wooden buildings on it, and they gave off a dense, starry, and mysterious aura. There had been Shang dynasty inscriptions on them, but they had been changed to Qin characters. This nation armament belonged to the Shang dynasty, and as one of China's 5 great ancient kingdoms, it was more powerful than ordinary nation armaments. Zhao Fu renamed it the Qin Star Tower. The second was a silver dragon that was 30 centimeters long. It was made of silver and looked incredibly ferocious. Now that Qin had sent fate into it, it had become a dark silver color and gave off an even more ferocious and powerful aura. This was the Jin dynasty's nation armament, and it was most likely created during the 8 Kings Rebellion. Zhao Fu renamed it the 8 Qin Dragons. The third item was a 30-centimeter-long ship that was made of jade. There was a dragon's head engraved on the front and a dragon's tail engraved on the back. It was 7 levels tall and had many small buildings that were filled with precious treasures. It was now filled with Great Qin's aura. This was the Sui dynasty's dragon boat, which had been created by the Sui dynasty. Emperor Yang of Sui had sat in it and traveled the Grand Canal many times. Even though Emperor Taizong of Tang, Li Shimin, was a good emperor, he was very good at slandering people. Emperor Yang of Sui was not a very muddle-headed person, and his big brother, Li Jiansheng, was an outstanding military strategist. However, the Tang dynasty's history books recorded how muddle-headed and useless he was. Many people believe that only now, with large amounts of historical evidence, was the true face of history. Zhao Fu named this beautiful dragon boat the Qin boat. The fourth was a yellow cloth that did not look very special, but gave off a faint golden light. There was a dragon image swimming within it, and it gave off a king's aura. However, it had become a black cloth and also gave off a black light. This was the Song dynasty's nation armament, the Emperor's Cloth. It was said that Zhao Kuangyin had been wearing a yellow robe during the rebellion. In actuality, when Zhao Fu had conquered later Zhou, its aura had been quite similar to the Song dynasties, as Zhao Kuangyin had been a general of later Zhou. Zhao Fu renamed it Qin Dibu. The final item was a spine that was 30 centimeters long and snow-white like jade. It looked like a dragon's spine and gave off a massive dragon's might. This was the Great Qing's dragon vein, and Zhao Fu renamed it the Qin Dragon Vein. After looking at the 5 nation armaments, Zhao Fu felt quite satisfied and placed them next to Qin's city heart, allowing them to receive nourishment from Qin's fate. Now that Qin had 9 nation armaments, Qin's nation power would once again rise by a level. In actuality, Zhao Fu wanted to refine the imperial ruler's seal and have it become Qin's clan armament. However, after thinking about it, Qin was part of China, and the imperial ruler's seal was already in Qin's hands. As such, it was best not to do such a thing. Apart from the 5 nation armaments, there was another important thing, which was that Qin's level had once again risen. It was stated that conquering a nation legacy would give 1 evolution point, and conquering a dynasty would give 5 evolution points. Now, Qin City had finally reached the required 30 evolution points and had risen from an epic grade city to a human king grade city. It could be said that it was the first human king city in the human world. Qin City becoming a human king city had caused many abnormal signs, but because Zhao Fu had been unconscious, he could not see them. It was said that the entire Qin City gave off a golden light, causing the weather to change and clouds to swirl. A massive amount of fate gathered towards Qin City, forming a massive golden dragon that fused into Qin City. As a human king city, it surpassed epic grade city, and its stats greatly increased. There was not much detailed information about it, and it mainly introduced its 5 abilities. The first was Human King's Might. The city gave off a king's might, and it fused with Qin City's barony royal city, forming a kingdom's might. Within a certain range of the Qin Empire, ordinary beasts would instinctively feel fear and would not dare to take a single step into Qin City's territory. Of course, this was not just effective against beasts, but against other creatures as well. For example, if there was no one controlling an ordinary undead, they would instinctively feel fear and would not dare to get close. The second was Human King's Aura. This city had the ability to gather heaven and earth fate, and it was incredibly powerful. After all, very few things could gather heaven and earth fate. The third was Human King's Power. This was not king's power, but a type of royal city's power that the city gave off. This was a type of king's power, and it could cause Qin City's power to increase by a level. The fourth was Human King's Shield. When Qin City encountered great danger, it would activate this protection, forming a powerful Human King's Barrier that would protect Qin City. The Human King's Barrier was a high-grade barrier, and it was many times stronger than ordinary barriers. It could give Qin City the greatest protection. The fifth was the activation of the guard profession, which was a Human King Guard profession. It was a profession that specialized in defending human king cities, and it had reached B grade. Another big effect was that, as a legacy city, Qin City's military professions would evolve along with the city's evolution. Qin City's military professions were D+ grade, and as Qin City's grade increased, they would become C- grade military professions. In other words, Qin City's most basic military professions were C- grade. This would greatly increase Qin City's overall power, as the higher-grade military professions would have stronger stats. After looking at the city's stats, Zhao Fu gave a happy smile. Human king cities could still be leveled up. The next level was human emperor cities, which would be even more powerful, and human kings would not be able to rival them at all. However, the requirements were even more difficult, and ordinary countries and worlds would find it difficult to do so. After all, the requirement to level up a human emperor city was to unify an entire world. Qin City was still unable to do this. Even though they had won this battle, Qin City still did not have the strength to fight against an entire world. After all, there were still many city lords, and the people from the other continents had not truly acted yet. Otherwise, it would not just be 30,000 city lords attacking. After dealing with these matters, Zhao Fu returned to Qin City's main task, which was to clear out regions and construct the third Great Wall. Even though they were progressing quite quickly, Zhao Fu felt that it was still too slow. This was because they had cleared out 60 regions in a month, while 950 regions had not been cleared yet. This meant that clearing out those regions would take around 5 years, and it would take even longer to construct the Great Wall. Chapter 896. When that time came, not only would there be invasions from other worlds, but there would also be different factions from the Heaven Awakened world. When that time came, the human world would become even more complicated, and Qin would just be a tiny speck of dust in the Heaven Awakened world. It would not be like it was now, where it dominated the human world. When that time came, Qin would be nothing at all, let alone a royal kingdom. Even a dukedom would be able to easily destroy Qin. As such, Zhao Fu wanted to develop as quickly as possible. This was the most beneficial time for Qin's development, and he could not afford to waste any time. Zhao Fu discussed with his subordinates and decided to expand the army by 50 million soldiers, increasing the army to 250 million soldiers. Now that Qin's population was 7 billion, after clearing out the regions, it would have even more people. Apart from expanding the army by 50 million soldiers, Zhao Fu also planned to create 100 million militia. These militia would be trained regularly and would be used in emergencies. If there were not enough soldiers, or if the soldiers were tied down, they would be put to use. In that case, Qin's army would reach 350 million soldiers. 50 million soldiers would stay behind to protect Qin, while the other 300 million soldiers would be split into 30 teams to clear out regions. If they could clear out 30 regions in a week, they would be able to clear out 120 regions in a month. 950 regions would be cleared out in 8 months. Zhao Fu became quite free, and apart from taking care of some important matters, he left the smaller matters to his subordinates. He had not left the legacy land in a long time, and because of this, Zhao Fu went outside to have a look. He found that the entire grassy world was talking about the human world. Zhao Fu could not help but take note of this, and, after asking around, he found that they were talking about the Celestial Emperor's Star and the Nether Emperor's Star. He remembered that these two stars had been around for a while, but they were still quite popular. With their strength, they did not know what these two Emperor stars were like, but they understood how powerful they were. Some people said that a demon had descended, which was why such an Emperor star had appeared. They also advised everyone not to offend people from that world in the future, lest they bring disaster to their entire race. Someone else cried out about the unfairness of the world. Why did such a terrifying figure appear in the next world? Why didn't the grassy world have one? That person was definitely the bane of the grassy world, and the grassy world might perish at his hands. They were also quite curious as to what sort of race was below them. Was it the human race or the death race? How could such a terrifying figure be born? However, it was possible that it was two different people, as their attributes were completely different. Thinking to there, everyone could not help but feel quite shocked. Didn't that mean that there were two monsters? This was what the commoners thought, and the kingdoms of the grassy world treated this matter with great importance. The various kings even held emergency meetings, raising the danger level of the human world to the highest level. The human world was even more dangerous than their mortal enemies, the Lantong world. Because of this, they decided to stop invading and turn from attacking to defending. Even though the human world was only a new world and was becoming stronger every day, they were worried that the heaven domain boundary would disappear. It was not the grassy people attacking the human world, but the human world charging out and attacking the grassy people. What would the grassy people do? Zhao Fu felt quite helpless because Qin did not have that kind of strength. However, choosing to defend instead of attacking was a good thing, as the pressure on the human world would be greatly reduced. However, if they personally saw the situation in the human world, they might change their plans. In actuality, Zhao Fu wanted to bring disaster to the grassy world, but the Qin world had not been unified yet, so it was not quite possible for him to bring disaster to other worlds. After buying a large number of talisman stones, Zhao Fu once again returned to the human world. Even though they had won this battle, they had used up many things such as disaster pearls and 5 million aquatic beast corpses. Once they used them, they would be gone, and Qin would lose another trump card. Zhao Fu had a plan for the future. After clearing out the region, they would continue to expand outwards and destroy Myanmar and Laos. Zhao Fu had nothing to do, so he started to fish in a small stream while cultivating and increasing his cultivation. However, the higher one's cultivation was, the more difficult it would be to increase one's cultivation. At that moment, Li Si came over and reminded Zhao Fu, "Your Majesty, you haven't dealt with Flower Moon yet. You haven't dealt with Flower Moon's matter yet, or should I do it?" Hearing this, Zhao Fu thought for a moment. Before, Zhao Fu rarely trusted people, and only Xianru was able to earn Zhao Fu's trust. Moreover, this was because she had been under Qin's command for a long time, and she was by herself. Moreover, when a faction had many people, it was impossible for them to have the same thoughts. As such, Zhao Fu did not trust any factions, so he had not accepted any of them. Even though the leader of Flower Moon had not done anything to betray Qin, the others had. Even though they had not leaked any important information, it was still a betrayal. After returning to the palace, Zhao Fu ordered people to bring Flower Moon's people here. The one with the most complicated expression was Su Yuyin, and she looked at Zhao Fu with an intense resentment. She had never thought that he was Qin's legatee, and he had deceived her for so long. She had even given him her first kiss. At first, no one knew that Zhao Fu was Qin's legatee, and they had been locked up in the harem. After hearing this from someone else, they felt incredibly shocked. They had never thought that the puppet Zhao Fu was Qin's legatee, the supreme king of the human world. Long time no see, superstar Su. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile as he looked at Su Yin kneeling in front of him. Su Yin angrily turned her head to the side because she had trusted Zhao Fu so much and had a good impression of Zhao Fu. Otherwise, she would not have given her first kiss to Zhao Fu, and she had even wanted to do those indescribable things with Zhao Fu. However, Zhao Fu had instantly destroyed Flower Moon. "Turn around. Want to look at you." Zhao Fu's voice became dignified and domineering, making people feel quite afraid. Su Yin's eyes were filled with tears, and she felt quite wronged. She turned her head and looked at Zhao Fu with a trace of misery. Zhao Fu walked down from the throne and came before her, before lightly laughing as he said, "Are you afraid of us? Get up." Hearing this, Su Yin felt quite angry and wronged as she glared at Zhao Fu. However, she inwardly let out a sigh of relief. Zhao Fu did not have any intentions of killing them. After going at it for a while, the women powerlessly lay on the bed. Zhao Fu teased, "Flower Moon's women are all quite good and have a unique taste." Xiao Yuan rested her head on Zhao Fu's right arm, and her face was red as she inwardly sighed. She had not been able to escape this calamity, but at least her life had been saved. Chapter 897. Your Majesty, now, we're all yours, and Flower Moon is also yours. Our relationship is no longer one of cooperation and belongs to Qin. Can you completely trust us and give us another chance? I promise there won't be a next time, Xiao Yuan said as she flirtatiously looked at Zhao Fu. Su Yuyin, who was lying on the left of Zhao Fu, lightly harumphed and said, "That's right, we're all yours. What's more, it was just a few of us who did that sort of thing. We didn't betray him. As the emperor, you should be fair in dealing with things. However, this time, you captured all of us and took our bodies. Isn't that a bit too much? After all, Big Sis and I have always supported Qin. There's also by you and the other people who leaked the information. They're the women who served you the most. Look, they've all fainted. Can you give them a lighter punishment? Since you've taken our bodies, how about that?" Zhao Fu was not in a hurry to reply and only replied, "I'll think about this and deal with it." Following this, Zhao Fu kissed them for a while before getting up and heading to the Dark Demon World, feeling quite spirited. The Dark Demon World's world protector, Emo Chi, was still unconscious, and his injuries had not recovered. The entire Demon Heaven sect was incredibly worried and shocked at how powerful the human world's world protector was. The main reason Zhao Fu had come here was because of a Night Dynasty. In actuality, Zhao Fu had a much bigger plan, which he had changed from his original plan. In his original plan, Zhao Fu had only treated the Night Dynasty as a chess piece that would be of great use when the Dark Demon World invaded in the future. However, this was a complete waste of the Night Dynasty's great advantage. Now, Zhao Fu did not place the entirety of China in his eyes at all. After unifying China, he would unify the Midland continent before conquering the other continents and unifying the world. The Night Dynasty itself had a great advantage. Even though it could not unify the Dark Demon World, with Great Qin's help, it would be able to unify the southern continent of the Dark Demon World. The two sides could develop together, and when they fused together, they would be incredibly powerful. Now, Qin's main task was to clear out the human world, and there was nothing else important. Zhao Fu could now turn his attention to the Dark Demon World. Now that the world protectors of both worlds were heavily injured and in a coma, Zhao Fu had nothing to worry about. Apart from developing in the Dark Demon world, Zhao Fu felt that the fish scale world could also develop a faction in the fish scale world. After the world protector disappeared, Qin would devour 3 worlds at lightning speed and then invade the world. The people in the world would go crazy. This was Zhao Fu's grand plan. He had changed from being on the defensive to taking the initiative to attack. China and the rest of the world were not enough to satisfy Zhao Fu's ambitions. Zhao Fu wanted Great Qin to become a true empire. Therefore, the current situation was still very urgent, and there was not much time left. Qin had to seize the opportunity. After coming to the Dark Demon world, the Night Dynasty's first goal was to destroy the 3 dynasties and a sect. In the Heaven Awakened world, sects could control countless cities and regions, and they had sect armaments that were no weaker than nation armaments. Before, these factions had allied with the Vile Dynasty to attack the Vile Dynasty. Now, this was a personal enmity between the Vile Dynasty and the Vile Dynasty. Destroying them would not help, and no one would be displeased. Even though Mo Chi was heavily injured and asleep, there were still countless other Dark Demon people. As such, they had to be careful and not make things too obvious. It was best not to get ganged up on. First was the Night Dynasty's strength. The Night Royal City was now a level 1 capital city, and it had 250 million people and 22 million soldiers. This was not a large force, and it would not be able to destroy 4 factions at once. Because they were all countries in the real world, they needed all sorts of resources and funds to support them, so it was impossible for them to have many soldiers. Moreover, if they wanted to get rid of future problems, they had to destroy them in the real world and devour all of their power. That way, they would not be able to do anything to the Night Dynasty. This meant that the real world and the Heaven Awakened world would have to simultaneously attack, which would require a massive force. Facing the pressure from the National Treasury, Zhao Fu ordered people to expand the Dark Demon world's 8 million soldiers to 20 million in the real world. That way, he would have 20 million soldiers in the real world and 12 million soldiers in the Heaven Awakened world. Before, Zhao Fu had wanted to bring 10 million ghost soldiers. Because they were ghost soldiers, they would not be able to reveal where they came from. However, after thinking about it, Zhao Fu found that it was impossible to teleport over. Right now, Zhao Fu could only teleport 1 person at a time. So how long would it take to teleport 1,000 people? In the end, they still needed the power of city lords. This time, Zhao Fu could not bring too many, as he was afraid of causing panic in the southern continent of the Dark Demon world. As such, he only brought the 800 city lords from last time, which would be enough to deal with this situation. Before, the Night Dynasty had 300 or so city lords, and in total, they had 1,200 or so city lords. If necessary, they could ask the Demon Path sect to help. Zhao Fu also had detailed information on the 3 dynasties and 1 sect. Now that he had decided to destroy them, the first thing he had to do was to gather intelligence. The first dynasty was called the Glazed South Dynasty. It had a population of 40 million or so, 3 million soldiers, 60 city lords, and no nation armament. The second dynasty was called the Sky Demon Dynasty. It had a population of 30 million or so, 3 million soldiers, 70 city lords, and no nation armament. The third dynasty was called the Xian Dynasty. It had a population of 50 million or so, 4 million soldiers, 70 city lords, and no nation armament. The fourth sect was called the Demon God Sect. It had a population of 20 million or so, 1 million soldiers, 40 city lords, and a sect armament. In total, they had a population of 140 million or so, 11 million soldiers, and 240 city lords. Because of the previous battle, the 4 factions had allied with the Vile Dynasty, and they had suffered heavy losses. They had not fully recovered their city lords and soldiers, and they had lost some of their population. On the other hand, the Night Dynasty had greatly developed, and its overall strength surpassed theirs. Before, they had been slightly stronger than the Night Dynasty, but because they were not united, they had been suppressed by the Night Dynasty. At the same time, even though they had dynasties in the real world, they did not have enough fate. Even though their legacy stones had reached legendary grade, it was a pity that they did not have nation armaments. With how precious nation armaments were, they could not be easily created by any dynasty. On the other hand, the demon god sect had a sect armament. The demon god sect's history was even older than the Night dynasties, and it had once been the number one sect in the southern continent of the dark demon world. However, it had declined and had become a second-rate sect. It had to ally with other factions to resist the Night dynasty. Chapter 898. Sect armaments were condensed from massive amounts of fate, and they were roughly the same as nation armaments. However, there was a big difference, which was that nation armaments required king's fate to control, while sect armaments required sect fate and the acknowledgement of the sect. Normally, only sect masters could use them. Moreover, the attributes of power were different. Nation armaments were a type of nation's power, while sect armaments were a type of sect's power. It cannot be said that one was weaker than the other. For example, in this world, sects had the same strength as nations, but they were sects. What Zhao Fu cared about was whether or not he could refine it and make it into Qin's nation armament. Right now, Qin did not belong to any sect, so even if he refined it, he would not be able to use it without a sect's qi. Zhao Fu decided to put this matter aside for now and focus on how to destroy the four factions. Now that the four factions were on guard, it would not be easy to launch a sneak attack. After all, with the Night dynasty and Qin's secret help, they would be able to suppress them. As such, Zhao Fu decided to attack openly. Zhao Fu only used the 20 million soldiers from before, and he added another 10 million soldiers who were on standby in the real world. There was no need for Qin's people to act for now, and Zhao Fu did not hide this news. It would be best if everyone knew about it. 300 city lords and 20 million soldiers split into 4 teams and gave off powerful auras as they simultaneously attacked the 4 factions. This news quickly spread throughout the southern continent of the Dark Demon world, and the various factions watched as the Night dynasty finally acted against the 4 factions. Because the Night dynasty had a personal enmity with the 4 factions, no one wanted to get involved. Because the Night dynasty had received help from that mysterious faction, its strength had become terrifying, and no one wanted to offend it. The ones who were the most panicked were the 4 factions, as they originally only had 11 million soldiers and 240 city lords. After hearing that the Night dynasty was attacking, they had used up a massive amount of resources and expanded their forces to 20 million, hoping that they would be able to resist at all. Because the 4 factions were on the defensive and had always been wary of the Night dynasty, they naturally had the geographical advantage and built firm defenses. As for the Night dynasty's 4 teams, Zhao Fu led a team to attack the Demon God sect because he wanted to personally see what Qin's sect armament was like. Of the other 3 groups, one was led by Yi Tsang, and the other 2 were led by the Night dynasty's ancestor. Qin's people were hidden among them, and they were prepared to act at any moment. The 5 million soldiers majestically came to the foot of a large mountain, and there was already a great wall on the mountain. It was 20 meters tall and gave off a firm and heavy aura as it stood on the mountain. The Great Wall was filled with people from the Demon God sect, and they looked down at the Night dynasty's army warily. Zhao Fu was still dressed in black, concealing his appearance and figure. He gave off a powerful aura as he stood in the air, and the air around him seemed to freeze, giving off a massive pressure that made it difficult for countless people to breathe. As Zhao Fu descended with his powerful aura, the people on the Great Wall immediately panicked because even ordinary city lords would not be able to withstand this aura. A long-bearded elder hurriedly walked out from the crowd and shouted, "My demon god sect swears that we will never become enemies with the Night dynasty. Can you spare my demon god sect this once?" Zhao Fu stood in the air and coldly harumphed, "It's too late. Back then, the Night dynasty gave you a chance, but you chose to betray us. Now, you can only choose to submit or die." The long-bearded elder's expression was quite unsightly as he exploded out with a powerful aura like a wild gale. He furiously roared, My demon god sect was once the #1 sect in the southern continent of the dark demon world. We're not so easy to bully. Even though we're not as strong as before, it won't be easy for the Night Dynasty to devour us. You'll have to pay a heavy price. Boom! A demonic light shot into the sky, causing clouds to swirl as a massive might covered the entire battlefield. A spider statue, giving off intense demonic light, floated out of the elder's body as the elder's power rose to its peak. It was a black spider that was as big as a palm and completely black. It had 4 blood-red eyes and gave off a savage and evil aura. This was most likely the demon god sect armament, the demon god spider. It was incredibly powerful and was no weaker than a nation armament's power. In actuality, in the previous battle, Zhao Fu had personally seen Mo Chi use his sect armament, and he had seen how terrifying its power was. Zhao Fu wanted to use his power to make the Night Dynasty hesitate and not dare to act. There was no side that did not worry about losses in battle, but trying to force Zhao Fu to retreat was simply wishful thinking. Zhao Fu did not waste any words with him and unleashed the Qin Royal Seal. A similarly terrifying aura descended and covered the battlefield. As more cities appeared and Qin City's grade increased, the power of the Qin Royal Seal became even more powerful. Attack together and destroy the demon god sect. Zhao Fu's voice was filled with coldness and might, as well as disdain. The 200 or so Qin City lords immediately obeyed and exploded out with power as they rushed towards the Great Wall. However, this was not the end. Zhao Fu threw out another 50 spirit pet rings, causing 50 icy flames to appear. Because the wyverns were massive and because they had the advantage of dragons, they were even more powerful than ordinary city lords. They were terrifying weapons of war. In an instant, 200 city lords and 30 wyverns had appeared, while the demon god sect only had 40 city lords. The Night Dynasty's faces became incredibly pale, and even the long-bearded elder's expression fell as he cursed. Your Night Dynasty is shameless. You're borrowing that mysterious faction's power. Your Night Dynasty is just their dog. Zhao Fu coldly laughed and did not reply as he directly attacked. The 200 or so city lords attacked the city lords, and the 50 wyverns spewed out large amounts of flames and icy blasts towards the soldiers on the Great Wall. Pain cries sounded out as countless people were burned to death or turned into ice statues. All of the archers on the Great Wall drew their bows and furiously shot arrows at the wyverns. Countless arrows tore through the air as they flew towards the wyverns. Ding, ding, ding. Clear sounds continuously sounded out as the countless arrows hit the wyvern scales, but they were all deflected and were not able to harm the wyverns at all. However, the massive rain of arrows still caused the wyverns to fly into the sky. However, this did not allow the soldiers on the Great Wall to let out a sigh of relief, as the Night Dynasty soldiers had already rushed up. Swish, 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 arrows whistled through the air as they flew towards the Great Wall with immense force. They then fell like rain, causing blood to fly everywhere as howls sounded out. Roar, roar. Chapter 899. Zhao Fu walked into the cave. Zhao Fu's terrifying eyes now had those gray pupils, allowing Zhao Fu to see clearly in the dark. He no longer needed torches or other items, as these gray pupils came from the Death Race's bloodline. Zhao Fu's eyes were filled with a gray light as he walked into the cave. After walking 30 meters, Zhao Fu found some weapons left behind by soldiers, as well as a few pools of blood. However, there were no corpses, and there were signs that the corpses had been dragged away. It was most likely that something had dragged the corpses away. Zhao Fu once again became more careful, and he continued onwards. As Zhao Fu advanced, the space inside became larger and larger. Suddenly, just as Zhao Fu advanced 100 or so meters, black spiders that were 1 meter wide quickly swarmed toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu's expression did not change at all. Even though these spiders had some power, they were nothing to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu took out the Death Disaster sword and casually swung it, causing countless traces of deathly chi to flow out and attack the countless spiders. The spiders' bodies were instantly corroded by the deathly chi, and their life force disappeared, causing them to immediately die. There were hundreds of spiders, and they had all become corpses. Zhao Fu stepped over these corpses and continued onwards. Every now and then, another wave of spiders would attack, and their numbers would increase. A few hours later, Zhao Fu reached a 10 or so meter wide passageway. His sword brought out a gray sword light, cutting thousands of spiders into countless pieces. These spiders were all stronger than before, and their bodies were now larger and larger. They were now 5 meters wide. Zhao Fu continued onwards. After killing a few more waves of spiders, another large wave of spiders rushed at Zhao Fu. There were simply too many of them, and they were densely packed together. However, Zhao Fu's expression did not change much. He sent his Emperor's power into the Death Disaster Sword, causing it to give off a chilling gray light. The spiders gave off ferocious auras as they flooded over. In just an instant, they had arrived before Zhao Fu, and it was as if they would instantly inundate Zhao Fu and devour him. Facing so many spiders, Zhao Fu continuously slashed out, sending out terrifying sword lights. There were simply too many of them, and the countless spiders were instantly chopped into countless pieces by Zhao Fu. Green blood flew everywhere, and more spider corpses appeared under Zhao Fu's feet. These spiders were quite powerful, and they all had stage 1 strength. They were 2 meters long and had blood-red eyes. A few hours later, Zhao Fu's arms felt quite numb. There were layers of corpses in front of him, and the ground was covered with green blood. All of the spiders had been killed, and Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. He had thought that there would be no end to these spiders. Zhao Fu stopped for a while to recover some strength before continuing onwards. Following this, Zhao Fu came to a 10,000-meter wide hall. The floor of the hall was made of smooth tiles, and there were terrifying drawings on the walls. They were drawings of spiders hunting for food, and they looked incredibly bloody and savage. Within the hall, there were 3 spiders that were 100 meters wide. They had 6 pairs of blood-red eyes and looked at Zhao Fu coldly and savagely. They gave off powerful auras, and their strength was not inferior to that of a boss monster. At the same time, there was a large door behind them, and there was a massive spider drawn on the door. It seemed as if it had a life of its own and was about to rush out. Just as Zhao Fu stepped in, the 3 spiders' 8 legs quickly moved, and their bodies shot toward Zhao Fu, giving off a terrifying aura. Facing the 3 massive spiders, Zhao Fu vigorously slashed out, and a 100-meter long crescent sword light containing boundless deathly chi slashed towards the incoming spiders. However, not only were these 3 spiders incredibly fast, but they were also incredibly nimble. Just as the crescent sword light was about to hit them, the 3 spiders jumped and easily dodged Zhao Fu's attack. Zhao Fu looked down on these 3 spiders. Chi! 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 The 3 massive spiders jumped into the air and spat out a white liquid at Zhao Fu. This liquid gave off a fishy smell and was evidently not something good. Zhao Fu quickly dodged to the side, and the 3 balls of liquid landed on the ground and sizzled. In just an instant, 3 large holes appeared on the ground. They were 7 or 8 meters wide and 10 or so meters deep, and they gave off a burnt stench. The 3 massive spiders descended from the air and sprang toward Zhao Fu. Their mouths bit towards Zhao Fu, wanting to tear him apart. Seeing that the 3 spiders dared to get close to him, Zhao Fu coldly smiled, and countless traces of deathly chi flowed out from the Death Disaster Sword. In just an instant, hundreds or so spears that were 10 or so meters long appeared, and each spear gave off a powerful, deathly aura. Zhao Fu's long-range attacks were not very powerful, but as a swordsman, close-range attacks were quite beneficial. The 3 massive spiders tried to bite Zhao Fu, but the spears that Zhao Fu condensed contained immense power and stabbed out simultaneously. Because the 3 massive spiders were too close, they were unable to dodge at all. The spears stabbed into their bodies, causing green blood to spurt out. The three spiders gave off massive howls and quickly retreated. Zhao Fu was quite surprised that they had not died after taking Zhao Fu's attack, but they were already heavily injured. Zhao Fu rushed up and turned into a ray of sword light, giving off an incredibly sharp sword aura as he flashed out, sending one of the spiders flying. It slammed into a wall, creating a large crater. No one knew if it was dead or alive, and it did not even twitch as it fell to the ground. The remaining two spiders no longer looked at each other savagely, but with fear. With Zhao Fu's current strength, even the 8 aquatic beast kings feared him, let alone these 3 spiders that were comparable to the boss monsters of regions. The 2 spiders quickly ran towards a door. The door was 100 meters tall and 60 meters wide, and Zhao Fu didn't know what was behind it. Even though Zhao Fu did not know what was behind them, everyone knew that the remaining 2 spiders definitely wanted to do something, so Zhao Fu had to stop them. He stretched out a hand, and the golden pupil in his left eye quickly spun before grabbing at the air. Countless chains stretched out from the ground and shot towards the 2 spiders. The 2 spiders were given a big fright and quickly tried to dodge. However, there were too many chains, and the 2 spiders were heavily injured, so they were unable to dodge at all. They were bound up by the chains, and they started to struggle, trying to break free. After locking up the 2 spiders, Zhao Fu walked in front of them, and the Death Disaster Sword gave off a terrifying sword light. Just as Zhao Fu was about to kill the 2 spiders, he saw that their eyes were filled with fear and begging for mercy. Zhao Fu thought about it and stopped for now. If there wasn't any deep hatred between them, Zhao Fu would not kill those who were willing to submit to him. "Are you willing to submit to me?" Zhao Fu looked at the 2 spiders and asked. If they were not willing to surrender, Zhao Fu would continue to kill them. Chapter 900. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and put the black spider away. Soon, the battle was brought under control. Most of the demon god sect's soldiers and city lords had died, and a small portion had surrendered. Zhao Fu led his soldiers and continued to attack the demon god sect's territory. Because the demon god sect's sect master had entered the heaven-awakened world with his real body, Zhao Fu did not use the heart-killing sword, as he was already truly dead. After killing the demon god sect's sect master, a black rhombus-shaped crystal remained where it was. This black crystal gave off a faint demonic light and was as long as a finger. The aura it gave off was similar to that of a city lord's seal, but it represented a different power. This was a sect crystal, and it had the same effects as a city lord's seal. It could control all of the sect's authority and contained a powerful sect's power. The other 3 teams progressed quite smoothly, and after taking down the defensive Great Wall, they started to wreak havoc within the various factions' territories. The 4 factions' residents were thrown into chaos. Facing the Night Dynasty's ferocious attacks, they did not have the strength to resist at all. They could only run for their lives, or else they would die screaming in terror. At the same time, the Night Dynasty's soldiers, who had long since prepared in the real world, launched sneak attacks while most of the 4 factions' people were in the heaven-awakened world, easily conquering places. Fearing that they would not have enough soldiers, Zhao Fu had some of the Night Dynasty's soldiers return to the real world to assist in the battle. Whether in the heaven-awakened world or in the real world, the 4 factions were all heavily wounded. In the heaven-awakened world, they did not have the strength to resist at all. Most of their soldiers and city lords had died or surrendered, and only the residents remained. How strong could the residents be? A single stage 1 soldier could kill dozens of residents, and countless residents could only be slaughtered on the battlefield. In the real world, the 4 factions still had some resistance, as many of their soldiers had died in the heaven-awakened world, but not in the real world. However, they did not have any will to resist, as they knew that they would lose, and their higher-ups were either trapped in the heaven-awakened world or had died. Zhao Fu led his city lords and charged straight to where the demon god headquarters was. The remaining power there formed a massive magic formation, but Zhao Fu disdainfully smiled. He did not even do anything and directly used the sect stone in his hand to dispel the magic formation. After taking control of the demon god sect, Zhao Fu went to the demon god sect's core area. This place was different from the city heart. There was a round orb floating in the air, and below the orb was a 1-meter tall stone stele. It gave off a massive aura, and the words Demon God Sect were written on it. Zhao Fu went up to look at its information and found that this stone stele was the sect establishing monument. As long as one had something like this, they could create a sect, and the sphere was naturally the sect heart. Of course, this sect establishing stele belonged to the demonic god sect's legacy stele, so it was impossible to establish a new sect. It could only be the demonic god sect. They went up and placed their hands in the sect heart before choosing to conquer and relocate. In the end, they completely obtained the demon god sect. The other 3 teams quickly took down the 3 dynasties, and the 4 factions were destroyed and became part of the Night Dynasty. Now, there were many things to take care of. Not only did they have to take over the 4 factions' resources and people in the Heaven Awakened world, but they also had to take over the cities, land, and residents in the real world. There were many things to take care of, but the Night Dynasty was incredibly happy. After devouring the 4 factions, the Night Dynasty's strength had once again greatly increased. Moreover, there had been many conflicts between the 4 factions and the Night Dynasty, and it was mostly because of the previous legatee's death. Now that they had finally been destroyed, the Night Dynasty did not have to worry about them anymore. However, they did not know that Zhao Fu's ambitions did not stop there. In the southern continent of the Dark Demon world, those 4 factions were only second-rate factions, so destroying them was not a big deal. However, even without Qin's help, the Night Dynasty could rely on its own strength to become the #1 faction in the southern continent. Apart from the Night Dynasty, the southern continent had 10 or so first-rate factions, dozens of second-rate factions, hundreds of third-rate factions, and many unranked factions. The rest were all system factions. It would be quite difficult to unify the southern continent of the Dark Demon world, especially since they could not reveal too much. Even though Zhao Fu wanted to do this quickly, he had to do it step by step. Zhao Fu already had a rough plan in mind. The countless factions were not too surprised about the 4 factions being destroyed, as they had already guessed this would happen. However, the Night Dynasty had once again borrowed the power of a mysterious faction, making many people feel quite fearful. Luckily, the Night Dynasty had sent out a friendly message for the first time. After all, there were many grievances between the Night Dynasty and the 4 factions, and last time, they had helped the Vile Dynasty attack the Night Dynasty. Now that the Night Dynasty had destroyed the 4 factions, they had nothing to say. Zhao Fu did not bring all of the cities and resources back to Great Qin because the Night Dynasty needed to develop as well. As such, he gave them to the Night Dynasty to increase its strength. Of course, there were many women from dynasties and sects, and Zhao Fu smiled and accepted them. Not long after Zhao Fu's group had taken down the Demon God sect, the Night Dynasty's people quickly took over. Zhao Fu planned to go back and properly research the sect armament. However, at that moment, a manager from a Night Dynasty came to report that they had discovered a historical remnant in a hidden place in the Demon God sect. It was incredibly dangerous, and a few soldiers who had gone in to investigate had disappeared and were most likely dead. Hearing about historical remnant, Zhao Fu felt quite interested. Qin now had a few historical remnants. One was the underground region, which Qin had explored 1/5 of. The second was the assassin historical remnant, which he had not passed yet, which was the mental trial. Next was the jungle historical remnant. Zhao Fu had already finished exploring this historical remnant, and he had obtained the ice and fire space, which was quite useful to Qin. After hearing about this historical remnant, Zhao Fu felt quite delighted and immediately ordered the manager to bring him to a large cave. This large hole was underground, and it was surrounded by ruins. There were traces of ancient culture, and it was completely dark inside the large hole. A wave of cold air surged out from the large hole, causing people to shiver. It gave people a feeling of extreme danger. The cave was 3 meters tall and 4 meters wide, and there were some white threads around it. Zhao Fu looked around and found that these white threads were most likely spider silk. Zhao Fu could not help but think that the demon god sect armament was a spider, and he wondered what the connection was. Chapter 901. Zhao Fu walked into the cave. Zhao Fu's terrifying eyes now had those gray pupils, allowing Zhao Fu to see clearly in the dark. He no longer needed torches or other items, as these gray pupils came from the death race's bloodline. Zhao Fu's eyes were filled with a gray light as he walked into the cave. After walking for 30 meters, Zhao Fu found some weapons left behind by soldiers, as well as a few pools of blood. However, there were no corpses, and there were signs that the corpses had been dragged away. It seemed that something had dragged the corpses away. Zhao Fu once again became more careful and continued to walk forwards. As Zhao Fu walked forwards, the space inside became larger and larger. Suddenly, when Zhao Fu had walked 100 or so meters, black spiders that were 1 meter wide quickly swarmed toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu's expression did not change, because even though these spiders had some power, they were nothing to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu took out the Death Disaster Sword and casually swung it, causing countless traces of deathly chi to flow out and attack the countless spiders. The spiders' bodies were instantly corroded by the deathly chi, and their life force disappeared, causing them to immediately die. There were over 100 spiders that had attacked, and they had all become corpses. Zhao Fu stepped over these corpses and continued onwards. Waves of spiders would attack from time to time, and their numbers would increase. A few hours later, Zhao Fu was in a 10 or so meter wide passageway. His sword gave off a gray sword light as he cut thousands of spiders into countless pieces. These spiders were even more powerful than before, and their bodies were even bigger. They were now 5 meters wide. Zhao Fu continued onwards. After Zhao Fu killed a few more waves of spiders, another wave of spiders attacked Zhao Fu. It was impossible to count how many there were, and they were all densely packed together. However, Zhao Fu's expression did not change much. He sent his Emperor's power into the Death Disaster Sword, causing it to give off a terrifying gray light. The spiders gave off ferocious auras as they flooded forwards, arriving in front of Zhao Fu in just an instant. It was as if they would instantly inundate Zhao Fu and devour Zhao Fu. Facing so many spiders, Zhao Fu continuously slashed out, sending out terrifying sword lights. There were simply too many of them, and the countless spiders were instantly cut into countless pieces by Zhao Fu. Green blood flew everywhere, and more spider corpses appeared beneath Zhao Fu's feet. These spiders were already quite powerful, and they were all at least stage 1. They were 2 meters long, and their eyes gave off a blood-red light. A few hours later, Zhao Fu's arms felt numb. There were layers of corpses in front of him, and the ground was covered with green blood. All of the spiders had been killed, and Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. He had thought that there would be an endless number of spiders. After stopping for a while, Zhao Fu recovered some of his strength before continuing onwards. Following this, he came to a 10,000-meter wide hall. The floor of the hall was covered with smooth tiles, and there were terrifying drawings on the walls. They were drawings of spiders hunting for food, looking incredibly bloody and savage. Within the hall, there were 3 100-meter wide spiders with 6 pairs of blood-red eyes that looked at Zhao Fu coldly and savagely. They gave off powerful auras, and their strength was no weaker than that of a boss monster. At the same time, there was a large door behind them, and there was a massive spider drawn on the door. It seemed as if it had a life of its own and was about to rush out. Just as Zhao Fu took a step in, the 3 spiders' 8 legs quickly moved, and their bodies shot toward Zhao Fu, giving off a terrifying aura. Facing the 3 massive spiders, Zhao Fu vigorously slashed out, sending out a 100-meter long crescent sword light that gave off boundless deathly aura towards the incoming spiders. However, not only were these 3 spiders incredibly fast, but they were also incredibly agile. Just as the crescent sword light was about to hit them, the 3 spiders jumped, easily dodging Zhao Fu's attack. Zhao Fu had underestimated these 3 spiders. Chi, chi, chi. The 3 massive spiders jumped into the air and spat out a white liquid at Zhao Fu. This liquid gave off a fishy smell and was evidently not anything good. Zhao Fu quickly dodged to the side, and the 3 balls of liquid landed on the ground and sizzled. In just an instant, 3 large holes appeared on the ground. They were 7 or 8 meters wide and 10 or so meters deep, and they gave off a burnt stench. The 3 massive spiders descended from the air and sprang toward Zhao Fu. Their mouths bit toward Zhao Fu, wanting to tear Zhao Fu apart. Facing the 3 spiders that dared to get close, Zhao Fu gave a cold smile, and countless traces of deathly aura flowed out from the Death Disaster Sword. In just an instant, hundreds of 10 or so meter-long spears were condensed, and each spear gave off powerful, deathly aura. Zhao Fu's long-range attacks were not very powerful, but as a swordsman, close-range attacks were quite beneficial. The 3 massive spiders tried to bite Zhao Fu, but the spears that Zhao Fu condensed contained immense power as they simultaneously stabbed out. Because the 3 massive spiders were too close, they were unable to dodge at all. The spears stabbed into the 3 spiders' bodies, causing green blood to spurt out. The 3 spiders gave off massive cries and quickly retreated. After receiving this attack from Zhao Fu, they had not died, making Zhao Fu feel quite surprised. However, the 3 spiders were already heavily injured. Zhao Fu rushed up and turned into a ray of sword light, giving off an incredibly sharp sword aura as he flashed out, sending one of the spiders flying. It slammed into a wall, opening up a large crater. It was unknown if it was dead or alive, and it did not even twitch after falling to the ground. The remaining 2 spiders no longer looked incredibly savage, and instead looked incredibly terrified. With Zhao Fu's current strength, even the 8 aquatic beast kings were afraid of him, let alone these 3 spiders that were comparable to the bosses of regions. The 2 spiders quickly ran towards the large doors, which were 100 meters tall and 60 meters wide. Even though Zhao Fu did not know what was behind them, everyone knew that the remaining 2 spiders definitely wanted to do something. Of course, Zhao Fu had to stop them. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand, and the golden pupil in his left eye quickly spun. Following this, Zhao Fu vigorously grabbed at the air, causing countless chains to stretch out from the ground and shoot towards the 2 spiders. The 2 spiders were given a big fright and quickly tried to dodge. However, there were too many chains, and the 2 spiders were heavily injured, so they were unable to dodge at all. They were tightly bound by the chains, and they started to struggle, trying to break free. After locking up the 2 spiders, Zhao Fu walked in front of them. The Death Disaster Sword gave off a terrifying sword light, and just as Zhao Fu was about to kill the 2 spiders, he saw that their eyes were filled with fear and begging for mercy. Zhao Fu thought about it and stopped for now. If there was no deep hatred between them, Zhao Fu would not kill people who were willing to submit to him. "Are you willing to submit to me?" Zhao Fu looked at the 2 spiders and asked. If they were not willing to surrender, Zhao Fu would continue to attack and kill them. Chapter 902. A bewitching and seductive woman walked out. She had blood-red hair and blood-red eyes. Her skin was snow white, but her hands were like sharp claws. She wore very little, and she only wore leather that covered her important parts. This woman looked incredibly enchanting, but her blood-red eyes were filled with bloodlust and cruelty. Her body gave off an extremely powerful phoenix chi, as well as a godly spirit's aura. She was the terrifying and cruel spider Empress Elise. Elise's bewitching beauty and elegance hid the cruel and dark heart of a deadly predator. She was cold and cunning, and she used the spider god's gift as a promise to tempt those who were unsuspecting. She had already changed her humanity into something even more evil, sacrificing innocent people to maintain her power and seemingly eternal youth. No one could count how many people she had caught in her nets and used to feed her insatiable hunger. Elise elegantly walked towards Zhao Fu step by step. She was incredibly powerful and even 200 or 300 city lords working together would not be a match for her. However, facing such a powerful Elise, Zhao Fu's expression did not change at all. He stretched out his hand, and tens of thousands of chains containing ferocious power flew towards her. Elise was incredibly fast, and her body blurred as she disappeared. However, in an instant, she appeared behind Zhao Fu, and her claw-like hands grabbed at Zhao Fu's back as if they were going to tear through Zhao Fu's body. Just as blood was about to splatter everywhere, in the next second, Zhao Fu exploded out with the full power of the Qin Imperial Seal, and a terrifying aura exploded out. 9 black dragons appeared beside Zhao Fu, and Elise's expression fell as she was sent flying by this powerful aura. Zhao Fu stretched out a finger and pointed at Elise as he said, "Summon Ghost." The 6 gray dots in Zhao Fu's right eye suddenly started to spin, and the 6 paths of reincarnation power flowed out from the ground. A 30-meter-tall, terrifying ghost appeared behind Elise and swung its massive claws, sending Elise flying with a single swipe. Elise, who had been sent flying, turned around and landed steadily on the ground. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth as she glared at Zhao Fu fiercely. However, the 6 gray dots in Zhao Fu's right eye continued to quickly spin, and an even greater 6 paths of reincarnation power flowed out from the ground. At that moment, Zhao Fu said, "Dark Ghost World." Immediately, countless ghostly auras enveloped Elise, instantly pulling her into an illusion. The moon here was gray, and countless ghosts howled as they pounced on her, as if they wanted to eat her. Back then, when Zhao Fu had fused the 5 professions, not only had he controlled the 6 paths of samsara power, but he had also mastered the skills of the 5 professions. Within the illusion, Elise continuously slashed out with her claws, sending out sharp rays of light that contained immense power. The attacking ghosts were sliced into countless traces of ghostly aura and dissipated, but there seemed to be an endless number of ghosts. Elise attacked as she tried to break out of the illusion. However, the illusion that Zhao Fu had created with the 6 paths of reincarnation power was more than 100 times stronger than ordinary illusions, and it was impossible for her to break out so easily. At that moment, Zhao Fu once again stretched out his hand, and a massive Qin royal seal entered Zhao Fu's left eye. Zhao Fu's 5 pupils slightly dilated, and a boundless power flowed out. Zhao Fu grabbed at the air, and hundreds of thousands of chains shot into the ghostly aura from all directions. Zhao Fu dispelled the ghostly qi and saw countless chains binding Elise and dangling her in the air. Elise's expression fell, and she understood that she was not a match for Zhao Fu at all. She gave a flirtatious look as she said, "All right." She said flirtatiously, "All right, this empress knows that I'm not a match for you, so I'll submit." However, Zhao Fu did not believe her so easily, and he stretched out his hand and said, "Hand over your soul source energy." Being hung in the air, Elise helplessly replied, "Yes, yes, yes." A mote of black light floated out from between her eyebrows and floated into Zhao Fu's hand. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised and had never thought that it would be so simple. He waved his hand, and the countless chains released Elise. Elise leapt into Zhao Fu's embrace and greedily sniffed at Zhao Fu as she said with a hungry and seductive look, "Your Majesty, how can your Emperor's aura be so powerful? How can your Emperor's aura be so powerful? It's even more powerful than a true Emperor's." Not only did Zhao Fu have the pure sovereign bloodline, but he also had 2 Emperor stars, so his Emperor's aura was naturally massive. However, Elise's changes were quite fast. Just then, she had wanted to eat him, and now she was acting like a loyal maid. Because he had obtained her soul source energy, Zhao Fu had obtained some information about her. He found that demon creatures were usually quite cunning, and the more cunning they were, the more fickle they were. Zhao Fu lightly pushed her away. Even though Elise was incredibly bewitching and beautiful, and looked like she was waiting for Zhao Fu to enjoy, Zhao Fu was more concerned about what was behind the door because he found that there was a treasure light coming from behind the door. After pushing Elise away, Zhao Fu walked towards the door, while Elise lightly harumphed in dissatisfaction. She looked at the 3 heavily injured spiders and waved her hand. 3 rays of black light covered them and started to heal their injuries. After coming to the door, Zhao Fu was greeted by golden light. This room was 1,000 meters wide, and there was a small stage at the center with a black throne on it. There were countless gold coins and gems around it, as well as all sorts of legendary grade and epic grade equipment, as well as other items. Zhao Fu looked around and found that there were at least 10 million gold coins and countless gems. Just the legendary grade equipment alone numbered over 1,000, and there were over 100 epic grade equipment. This place could be called a treasure trove. As for the Black Throne, even though it was quite simple, similar to the Western thrones, and didn't have any exquisite carvings, it was still a treasure. Empress Throne. A throne that only an empress is worthy of possessing. It has the might of a king and can greatly increase one's cultivation speed, comprehension, and recovery speed. It has an empress domain, and any structures within it can increase their stats. Apart from this throne, there was also a den floating in the air. At the core of this den was a spider. Divine Spider Den. Grade, epic description, a powerful and terrifying spider den that can spawn spiders with a trace of divine blood. Their strength reaches stage 2, and they can spawn 45 to 65 spiders per day. This was another treasure. The spider's reproductive abilities went without saying, and with this den as the core, Great Sheen would be able to develop a spider army, like the Wyvern Denver. What's more, these spiders were not weak, and they all had stage 2 strength. Chapter 903. However, at that moment, Zhao Fu had never thought that there would be another large door. Even though this door was tightly shut, a terrifying aura seeped out. It was incredibly terrifying and could cause people's bodies to instantly freeze, and this power was far more powerful than Spider Empress Elise's. Zhao Fu could not help but become cautious and walk towards the large door before pushing it open. A large hall appeared in front of Zhao Fu. This hall was 1,000 meters wide, but there was nothing inside. There was only a 100-meter long stone coffin at the center. That terrifying aura was coming from the stone coffin, and just as Zhao Fu was about to go up, the golden dragon could not help but warn him. Zhao Fu, be careful. Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded and cautiously unleashed his emperor's domain. He came to the stone coffin and tried to push the coffin lid, but there was no reaction. Only then did Zhao Fu open the coffin lid, and a 100-meter-tall demon corpse appeared in front of Zhao Fu. This corpse had a powerful body, a pair of sharp claws, violet scales, and a pair of large violet wings. What was different from ordinary demons was that its head was that of a man's. It was quite handsome, but gave off a trace of cruelty and coldness. The male demon gave off an incredibly powerful aura and a king's might. This demon was definitely the corpse of a demon sovereign king, and it was incredibly terrifying. Sensing this terrifying power, the sky demon sword within the sword mark slightly trembled, seeming to fear this power. A demon sovereign was naturally a king among demons and had powerful demon king's power. This demon sovereign's king's power was incredibly pure, and it most likely had a true kingdom instead of barony. This was because a barony gave king's power, which was the lowest level of king's power. What a kingdom gave was true king's power. This demon sovereign king had been dead for a long time, yet it still gave off such a powerful aura. The corpse of such an expert was a good treasure and could be used in many ways. As Zhao Fu was thinking about how to deal with the Devil King's corpse, the Golden Dragon said, "There's no need to go through all that trouble. The Devil King's corpse has already nurtured a second soul. It is now in a deep slumber and requires a powerful force to awaken it. As for Zhao Fu, you can use your blood to plant restrictions in his body. Your blood is a sovereign bloodline and can naturally suppress kings, so he won't be able to break free from your restrictions. Unless he also becomes an emperor, then you can use your power to awaken him. That way, you will be able to completely control him and prevent anything unexpected from happening. Hearing the golden dragon's words, a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face. If he subdued such a powerful demon monarch, wouldn't he have another powerful helper? Zhao Fu quickly followed the golden dragon's method and began to lay down restrictions. For this, Zhao Fu did not hesitate to use his own blood essence to condense various restrictions into a blood-red rune, which he then inserted into the demon sovereign's body. This was because the demon sovereign's first soul had already died, and the second soul was something that had been nurtured for a long time. It was incredibly rare, and the second soul did not have the first soul's personality and memories, so it was currently a blank. The restrictions had already been planted in its body, and now it was time to awaken it. This required immense power, and it was best if it was related to a king. As an emperor, Zhao Fu naturally had an advantage. Zhao Fu did not hesitate as he stood on the demon sovereign's massive head and unleashed the Qin imperial seal, exploding out with all of its power. A black aura flame appeared, sending wild gales in all directions. Following this, Zhao Fu controlled the Qin imperial seal to land on the demon sovereign's forehead. Powerful power flowed through the Qin imperial seal and into the demon sovereign's body. Gradually, some life force appeared in the demon sovereign's lifeless body, and it became stronger and stronger. 3 hours later, the demon sovereign suddenly opened its violet eyes and looked at Zhao Fu standing on its head. Its eyes were cold and did not contain a trace of emotion, only cruelty and evil, causing Zhao Fu's hairs to stand on end. In the next second, the demon sovereign raised its hand as if it wanted to attack Zhao Fu and crush Zhao Fu. It did not feel any gratitude towards Zhao Fu, the person who had awakened it, and it only had one thought, which was to kill all creatures. Zhao Fu coldly harumphed and activated the restrictions he had buried. Arg! The demon's sovereign howled in pain. After the blood-red restrictions were activated, the demon's sovereign soul was slowly twisted and cut, and then it recovered before twisting and cutting again. This sort of pain caused the demon's sovereign to go crazy, and it continuously howled as it struggled within the stone coffin. Zhao Fu stood in the air above the stone coffin and coldly looked at the demon sovereign in pain. Even though the demon sovereign was bleeding from its eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, making it look incredibly pitiful, Zhao Fu did not stop. Elise, who was in the first hall, heard the pained howls and felt a trace of fear in her heart. It was evident that Zhao Fu was not a kind person and might be even more cruel and cold-blooded than her. The howls continuously sounded out for 6 hours, and the demon's sovereign powerlessly lay within the stone coffin, moaning in pain and unable to even scream. Only at that moment did Zhao Fu stop, and the demon sovereign looked at Zhao Fu. It was no longer cruel and cold, but it was filled with fear and terror. Zhao Fu gave a satisfied smile. Following this, the demon sovereign started to change in front of Zhao Fu, turning into a 14 or 15-year-old purple-haired young man. Even though he gave off a cold and ferocious aura, he followed behind Zhao Fu, looking incredibly fearful and nervous. After coming to a hall, Zhao Fu was surprised to find 3 women. They had short silver hair and blood-red eyes. They were incredibly beautiful and had voluptuous figures, and they gave off elegant auras. These 3 women's auras were the same as the 3 spiders' auras from before. Zhao Fu looked at Elise, who also looked slightly afraid of him. She most likely had used some sort of method to do this, or perhaps they could turn into humans. Just as Elise was about to explain, Zhao Fu cut her off. She did not care about these things, and Elise's blood-red eyes spun as if she thought of something. She flirtatiously went up and hugged Zhao Fu's arm, looking quite intimate. The 3 women and the demon sovereign followed behind Zhao Fu and left the historical remnant. Just like that, they had finished exploring the historical remnant. Zhao Fu planned to return to Qin City and deal with the Spider Den and sect armament. Zhao Fu wanted to form an alliance with the other factions and use the alliance to get rid of the weaker factions and system factions. Chapter 904. For example, one of the most powerful empires in the human race, the Song Empire, was willing to protect Zhao Fu. However, the prerequisite was that Zhao Fu had to marry into the Song Empire and marry the Song Empire's most prestigious princess. Everyone knew about marrying into the Song Empire. When the groom married into the Song Empire, he would have to give up his status and become part of the Song Empire. His children would not have the groom's surname and would have to be bullied by the Song Empire. They would not have much power and would not even have the right to resist. Zhao Fu did not want to live such a life, so he did not want to seek protection from them. After looking through these quests, Zhao Fu felt a chill in his heart. A massive sense of crisis loomed over him, and he felt as if he would die in the next moment. If he could choose, Zhao Fu would rather not have the Emperor's Star than have such trouble. However, luckily, he had suddenly obtained this Supreme Being account, so he knew what was going on. Otherwise, if others killed their way to him and died without even knowing why, it would be quite tragic. Sitting around and waiting for death was evidently not Zhao Fu's style. Right now, he had to develop and obtain even more power. With the power of a barony kingdom and a higher being descending, Zhao Fu would not be able to stop them at all. Zhao Fu's consciousness left the heaven spirit steel and heavily breathed out. He put aside the quest to kill himself and started to plan his actions in the fish scale world. There was a massive gap between the fish scale world and the human world, so it was quite easy for them to travel back and forth. Zhao Fu also obtained a lot of information about the fish scale world. Even though the fish scale world was a world of water, it was split into 7 continents. There was a bottomless abyss between the continents, which separated the continents. The 8 aquatic beast kings lived in those abysses. During this period of time, the situation in the various worlds was quite similar, and they were in the final stages of the chaotic world. Because players could now attack system main cities, the system main cities were all gathered together. Zhao Fu continuously gathered information about the fish scale world and looked for a target to attack. The Netherwater continent was too close to the human world, and even though it was quite convenient for Zhao Fu, it would make others suspicious of him. As such, Zhao Fu chose the Darkwater continent, which was at the center of the 7 continents. Following this, Zhao Fu found a system faction that was easy to attack. This system faction was located in a remote region of the Midland continent and was neutral towards the outside world. It did not want to participate in any battles, and it did not have any powerful enemies either. They were all small factions that were quite weak. From how Zhao Fu saw it, they were quite delusional. They clearly had such a good development advantage and could clear out the surrounding factions to instantly become stronger. It would not be a problem for them to remain neutral, but when more powerful factions arrived, not developing would be equivalent to dying. As such, Zhao Fu decided to target them. There were 180 system city lords in total, but Zhao Fu only had 150 brain bugs, which was 30 short. Now that Zhao Fu had thought a way to deal with this, he did not have to worry too much. After making some arrangements for Great Qin, Zhao Fu headed to the fish scale world. Of course, this was done in secret, and no one would know. 2 days later, Zhao Fu finally snuck into the fish scale world and arrived at the continent. He found a system faction and waited for the right time to act. Time gradually passed. It was time for the fish scale people to rest. Zhao Fu hid his aura and started to carefully sneak into a system main city. With Zhao Fu's current strength, Stage 1 and Stage 2 soldiers would not be able to discover him. Zhao Fu quickly found the city lord. He was a middle-aged man who looked quite chubby and wore some gold jewelry. He was snoring loudly, and there was a beautiful woman lying next to him. Zhao Fu silently came to his side and lightly spread out his emperor's domain, covering the entire room to prevent anything unexpected from happening. The city lord was still snoring loudly and had not woken up. Zhao Fu did not hold back and took out an overmind bug and placed it on his head. The overmind bug wiggled a few times on his head and found a good place to enter. Its sharp body slightly pierced into the city lord's skin. The wealthy-looking city lord finally sensed danger, and he suddenly opened his eyes and saw that there was a person standing next to him. The wealthy-looking city lord wanted to explode out with his city lord seal's power to at least cause some noise and let others know that something had happened. However, Zhao Fu was prepared. His hand gave off a boundless power as he pressed it against the middle-aged man's chest. A massive power locked down his body, making it so that he could not move at all and could not even make a sound. By now, the overmind bug had completely burrowed into the middle-aged man's forehead and was crawling under his skin, looking for a place to enter his head. The middle-aged man looked terrified and stared at Zhao Fu, but he could not move at all. By now, the overmind bug had burrowed into his head. The middle-aged man's eyes were filled with pain, fury, and hatred as he stared at Zhao Fu, and his eyes gradually became empty. This was because the overmind bug was devouring his soul. After a while, the middle-aged man's empty eyes once again regained their light, but the overmind bug had already taken over his body, and it looked at Zhao Fu with a fawning gaze. Zhao Fu let go of his hand, and the power locking down his body disappeared. Zhao Fu ordered the overmind bug to act like the middle-aged man, and the sleeping woman next to him did not notice anything as Zhao Fu stealthily left. Using this method, Zhao Fu continuously controlled 80 or so city lords, and it was extremely successful without any mishaps. Zhao Fu did not want to waste time, so he continued to use this method. However, a small mishap occurred. After Zhao Fu snuck into a city lord's room, the city lord was incredibly wary and immediately discovered that someone had snuck in. At that moment, Zhao Fu immediately spread out his emperor's domain, covering the room and cutting off all sound and movement. The city lord was an ordinary-looking young man, and he did not hesitate to explode out with his city lord seal's power. However, at that moment, Zhao Fu also used the Great Qin seal's power. He stretched out his hand, and a massive, formless hand easily grabbed the young man. The young man desperately tried to break free, but he could not break free at all. Zhao Fu's expression did not change, and he came to the young man's side and took out a glass bottle. He held the continuously twisting overmind bug between two fingers and placed it next to the young man's eye, and the young man looked at the overmind bug in terror as he desperately struggled. However, when Zhao Fu let go, the overmind bug instantly darted into his eye and into his brain. The young man howled in pain as his soul was being devoured. Chapter 905. The insignia was circular, and there were a few circles on it. At the center was a spirit character. This character was not Chinese, but one of the most common characters in the Heaven Awakened world. The insignia gave off a faint light and was a treasure. Zhao Fu looked at the insignia and saw that the insignia was a spirit insignia. When Zhao Fu saw this insignia, he could not help but feel quite shocked. This insignia was incredibly famous, and it was one of the Heaven Spirit Financial Group's top-grade items. With it, no matter where one went, any faction related to the Heaven Spirit Financial Group would treat them as a top-grade VIP, and they would receive all sorts of benefits, such as discounts, free gifts, and the best service from the Heaven Spirit Steel. Ordinary higher beings did not even have such insignia, yet someone had given it to him. Zhao Fu wondered if his eyes were playing tricks on him, but after rubbing his eyes and looking again, he found that the insignia was still there. Had everyone in the Heaven Spirit Financial Group gone crazy to give such a precious item to him? Putting aside the fact that his Heaven Spirit Steel account had been upgraded to Supreme Grade, and now he had even been given a Heaven Spirit insignia. Even if there was something wrong, it could not be such a coincidence. There had to be some big reason behind this, but no matter how Zhao Fu thought about it, he could not think of any connection with the Heaven Spirit Financial Group. Zhao Fu could not figure it out, so he did not continue thinking about it. Zhao Fu took out the insignia and examined it closely. There was nothing wrong with it, and after confirming that there was nothing wrong with it, Zhao Fu put it away. This kind of surprise was simply too unexpected, and Zhao Fu had not expected it at all. Before, Zhao Fu's account in the Heaven Spirit Steel was the most basic account, and because he had not completed a single quest, he could only accept Level 1, Level 2, and Level 3 quests. Now that it had been upgraded to supreme grade, Zhao Fu could view and accept any quest. Moreover, he had gained many more privileges, and he could do anything he wanted with a discount. The Heaven Spirit Financial Group could also give him information about anything for free, and he could search for quests as he pleased. There was also a new section, which was the communication region. This was something that only high-grade accounts could access. The Heaven Spirit account relied on completing quests to level up, and if one wanted to level up to a high-grade account, one had to complete countless quests. However, Zhao Fu had directly reached supreme grade, and Zhao Fu could not hide the smile on his face. The communication region was a place where people could chat. There was a chatting hall and many private rooms, and it cost a lot of gold to create. However, to a supreme grade account like Zhao Fu, it was naturally free. Every name here was represented by a type of rune. In other words, there were only runes here and no real names. Zhao Fu felt quite curious and entered the chat hall. There were many people chatting with each other, and there were people who wanted to buy things, people who wanted to sell things, and people who were just chatting. It was the most common language in the Heaven Awakened continent, because the Heaven Awakened world was made up of countless worlds, and there were countless languages and cultures. Without a common language, it would be impossible to communicate. After entering, Zhao Fu saw a person selling a mid-grade mortal grade art, Devil Demon Arts. Zhao Fu found that this art was quite suitable for Zhao Sha, and it surpassed SSS grade arts. As soon as he entered, Zhao Fu saw a person selling an intermediate human grade art, Devil Art. You could post the item stats here, and Zhao Fu found that this art was quite suitable for Zhao Sha. Moreover, a human grade art surpassed an SSS grade art, and it was incredibly powerful. The people here did not lack money, so they had to exchange for it with items. These items cost 5 Ghost Spirit Jades, which were top-grade, epic-grade materials. Qin had obtained some during the Ghost Festival, and now, Zhao Fu felt that it would be worth it to exchange for this mid-grade mortal grade art. As such, Zhao Fu wrote a few words and sent them to the chatting hall, wanting to trade with that person. A rainbow-colored, domineering sentence appeared in the chatting hall. Immediately, the lively chatting hall fell silent, and Zhao Fu felt quite startled. He had never thought that a top-tier user would speak with special effects. Fudge, a higher being has appeared in the chatting hall. That scared me to death. After a short moment of silence, someone couldn't help but say in shock, only a higher being could have a top-tier user, and the higher beings of the weather world were some of the most powerful people in the entire Heaven Awakened world. Countless people could only look up to them. After the first person spoke, everyone else followed suit, and soon, a lot of chatting filled the chatting hall. It really is a higher being. That lowly Zhang Xiao Hua from the Oxhead Mountain is fortunate enough to meet a higher being. Higher being, may I ask if you still lack female attendants? I'm still a virgin, and I'm willing to serve you. I promise that I'll be able to satisfy you. Higher being, I'm simply too happy to be seen by a big shot like you. I'm so excited. I didn't expect such a big shot to come here. Look at you guys. Can't you be a bit more ambitious? Higher being, are you still taking disciples? I have human grade talent, and I promise that I'll treat you 100 times better than my father. Please take me as your disciple. Zhao Fu felt quite speechless. Just then, these people had been incredibly arrogant, and anyone with a high-grade account definitely would not be weak. However, all they had heard was flattery and flattery. More importantly, Zhao Fu was a fake and not a higher being. Even though he didn't know why, Zhao Fu guessed that his supreme level account would be taken back by the Heavenly Spirit, and when that time came, he would drop back to level 0 and would not even have the right to enter the chatting hall. As such, Zhao Fu decided to quickly use this supreme level account to obtain some benefits, and he said, I need the Devil Demon Art. Who was selling it just then? The chatting hall was once again flooded with words, asking if Zhao Fu needed this or that, and some people were talking about other things. Zhao Fu ignored these words and saw that the person who had just sold the Devil Demon Art immediately wanted to trade with him. An interface appeared in front of Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu took out 5 evil ghost jades and placed them into the interface. The person who had traded with Zhao Fu had never thought that such a big shot would directly trade with him, and his mind went blank. He had never thought that he would be able to form a connection with such a big shot, and his heart surged. What is it? Seeing that the trade had not been completed yet, Zhao Fu sent a private message to that person. That person had been frozen in place, his heart beating rapidly, and his mind going blank. After seeing this message, he had obediently placed the art and completed the trade, and 5 evil ghost jades had appeared in his hand. Only now did that person come back to his senses and feel incredibly regretful. To be able to form a connection with such a big shot was a massive opportunity, and he had missed it. If he had been able to become good friends with this big shot and receive some pointers, he would have been able to benefit greatly. Chapter 906. After dealing with the cultivation technique, Zhao Fu started to search for items to see what would be useful. It would be best if he could control something in the fish scale world and slowly develop it into a large faction. It would be best if he could unify an entire continent. After searching, Zhao Fu found a very useful thing, which was brain bugs. They were bugs that could control city lords, and they were naturally quite powerful. After all, city lords had city lord seals, which gave them terrifying power, and they could not be easily controlled. Moreover, brain bugs could enter a city lord's head and devour their soul before replacing them. They could obtain everything about the city lord, such as their abilities, memories, or personality, and they could perfectly disguise themselves. The chances of being discovered were quite low, and of course, it was not as high as wiping away one's consciousness. However, it was already quite good. Zhao Fu's goal was to use brain bugs to secretly control a group of city lords in the fish scale world and control them from behind the scenes to attack other regions. That way, they would slowly develop and develop. With brain bugs' abilities, any faction formed would naturally be completely loyal to Zhao Fu and would not betray him. However, brain bugs were not easy to obtain, so Zhao Fu started to search for quests that rewarded brain bugs. Even though there were many quests, they all required different things. Some required medicinal pills, some required equipment, and some required information. The first quest that Zhao Fu saw was to exchange a great city for 5 brain bugs. Even though Zhao Fu now had many cities, he was quite reluctant to exchange a great city for 5 brain bugs. Right now, Zhao Fu could only search for more suitable quests. For example, the quest that Zhao Fu saw was to exchange a legendary grade equipment for 3 brain bugs, which was quite good. As such, Zhao Fu quickly completed the quest and obtained 3 brain bugs. The brain worm was very thin, about 1 centimeter wide and half a foot long. Its body was transparent, and it was currently stored in a glass bottle. This was because the brain worm was actually very dangerous. If one wasn't careful and it drilled into one's body, then if one wasn't stopped, one would quickly be controlled by it and their soul would be devoured. What Zhao Fu needed to do was to use his blood to tame the 3 brain bugs and make them obey him. This was not too difficult, and Zhao Fu easily completed it. He then continued to look for quests, as 3 brain bugs were definitely not enough. Continue to search for the next mission. Exchanging 1 epic material for 6 overminds was a good deal. Zhao Fu immediately made the exchange. He then continued to search for quests. A day later, Zhao Fu completed dozens of quests and obtained 150 brain bugs. Zhao Fu smiled in satisfaction. This meant that Zhao Fu could now control 150 city lords. There were still many quests for brain bugs in the Heaven Spirit Steel, but Zhao Fu felt that it was too much of a waste, so he did not do them. However, Zhao Fu still paid attention to these types of quests. As long as he had suitable quests, he could do them. After all, the more brain bugs he had, the more city lords he could control, and the more powerful Zhao Fu would be. Now that these 2 matters had been resolved, Zhao Fu felt slightly more at ease. He did not know when the Sovereign Great account would be taken back, and Zhao Fu was quite curious about what the Heaven Spirit Steel's top-tier quests were. Seeing this, Zhao Fu felt quite shocked and felt that as expected from a top-tier quest. After all, Top-tier quests were not things that ordinary people could complete, and they were usually quests that only higher beings could complete, such as killing gods and emperors, searching for treasures, or exploring unknown worlds. Zhao Fu also saw a few human quests to search for the origin energy that had appeared before. Seeing this, Zhao Fu could not help but think of Tuoba Qing. It seemed that she had attracted the attention of many higher beings. What shocked Zhao Fu even more were the rewards. For example, he would be given a royal city, which was the capital of a true royal kingdom and not a barony royal city like Great Qin. He would also be given 10 Heaven Realm puppets, which were above Stage 9 and were even more powerful than the Saint Realm. Raising one's cultivation in the early stages was quite fast, but it would become more and more difficult in the future. For example, Zhao Fu had not even broken through yet, and only a few Stage 4 soldiers had appeared in his army. A single Heaven Realm cultivator could easily kill a large group of Stage 9 soldiers. It could be seen just how powerful the rewards were. They were simply too shocking. At the same time, Zhao Fu also saw a quest for himself. If he could provide information about the owner of the Celestial Emperor Star and their current location, he would be granted a Marquise Kingdom by the Taihao Empire. This made Zhao Fu feel quite shocked because Qin City was not a Marquise Kingdom yet and was only a barony kingdom. Seeing this, Zhao Fu almost wanted to sell himself. Zhao Fu laughed self-mockingly and looked at the other quests. He found that there were many quests about him, far more than the quest to find Tuoba Qing. Perhaps they knew that the origin race was not easy to deal with, and that Zhao Fu could easily crush them. As such, looking at the following quests, Zhao Fu's smile became cold because many of them wanted to kill him. For example, if he could obtain the head of the owner of the Celestial Emperor Star, he could obtain a divinity. If he killed the owner of the Celestial Emperor Star, he could obtain the demon ancestor's blood. And if he killed the owner of the Celestial Emperor Star, he could obtain a 5-colored dragon egg. Divinity, demon ancestor's blood, and a 5-colored dragon egg were all incredibly rare treasures, and they were just for taking his life. Only higher beings could see these quests, and Zhao Fu could not help but feel a chill in his heart. There were many people who wanted to kill him, and they were all quests for higher beings. Facing them, Zhao Fu would definitely die. There was also the higher being who had followed the origin mark, and he had not done anything for a long time. The danger he posed to Zhao Fu was quite great. More importantly, he had followed the origin mark and most likely knew that Zhao Fu had the Celestial Emperor Star and even knew about the Nether Emperor Star. He might even know what Zhao Fu looked like and where the human world was. Once he came, with Qin's current strength, it would be very difficult to defend. If he found a few more helpers, no matter how fast Qin developed, it would be futile, and Zhao Fu would not be able to escape death in the end. However, even after such a long time, that higher being had not done anything. It was possible that he had not found the human world's precise location, or else he would have slaughtered all of Qin and killed Zhao Fu to obtain the origin mark. What worried Zhao Fu the most was that almost everyone in the human world knew that he had awakened 2 Emperor Stars. Even though they did not know much about those 2 Emperor Stars, they understood how terrifying those 2 stars were. If this news was leaked, the consequences would be unimaginable. Zhao Fu did not dare to think about it. The only good thing was that the human world was in a boundary world, and the Heaven Awakened world was incredibly vast, so it would be very difficult for ordinary people to find this place. However, Zhao Fu was just in case. After all, if he was unlucky, anything could happen. Chapter 907. For example, one of the most powerful human empires, the Tsang Empire, was willing to give Zhao Fu protection. But the prerequisite was that Zhao Fu had to marry into the Tsang Empire and marry the Tsang Empire's most prestigious princess. Everyone knew about marrying into the Tsang Empire's family. If the groom married into the Tsang Empire, he would have to give up his status and become part of the Tsang Empire. His children would not be able to take the groom's surname and would have to be bullied by the Tsang Empire's family. They would not have much power and would not even have the right to resist. Zhao Fu did not want to live such a life, so he did not want to seek protection from the Tsang Empire. After looking through these quests, Zhao Fu felt a chill in his heart. A massive sense of danger loomed over him, and he felt as if he would die in the next moment. If he had a choice, Zhao Fu would rather not have the Emperor's Star than have such trouble. However, luckily he had suddenly obtained this Supreme Great account, so he knew what was going on. Otherwise, if others killed their way to him and died without even knowing why, it would be quite pitiful. Sitting and waiting for death was evidently not Zhao Fu's personality. Right now, he needed to develop and obtain even more power. With the power of a barony kingdom and a higher being descending, Zhao Fu would not be able to stop them at all. After withdrawing his consciousness from the Heaven Spirit Steel, Zhao Fu heavily breathed out and put aside the quest to kill himself and started to plan his actions in the fish scale world. There was a massive gap between the fish scale world and the human world, so it was quite easy for both sides to travel back and forth. Zhao Fu obtained a lot of information about the fish scale world. Even though the fish scale world was a world of water, it was split into 7 continents. There was a bottomless abyss between the continents, which separated the continents. The 8 aquatic beast kings lived in those abysses. The situation in the various worlds was quite similar, and they were in the final stages of the chaotic world. Because players could now attack system main cities, the system main cities were all gathered together. By now, Zhao Fu continuously gathered information about the fish scale world and looked for a target to attack. The Netherwater continent was too close to the human world, and even though it was more convenient for Zhao Fu, it would attract more suspicion. As such, Zhao Fu chose the Darkwater continent, which was at the center of the 7 continents. Following this, Zhao Fu found a system faction that was easy to deal with. This system faction was located in a remote region of the Midland continent, and it maintained a neutral stance towards the outside world. It did not want to participate in any battles, and it did not have any powerful enemies. In Zhao Fu's eyes, they were indulging in wishful thinking. With such a good development advantage, they could wipe out the surrounding powers and instantly become stronger. At this time, it was not a problem for them to maintain a neutral and peaceful state. When the time came, when even stronger powers came, not developing would be equivalent to death. As such, Zhao Fu decided to target them. This system faction had 180 system city lords in total, but Zhao Fu only had 150 brain bugs, which was 30 less. Zhao Fu had already thought of a way to deal with this, so he did not have to worry too much. After making some arrangements for Qin, Zhao Fu headed to the fish scale world. Of course, this was done in secret, and no one would know about it. 2 days later, Zhao Fu finally snuck into the fish scale world and went to that continent. He found the system faction and waited for the right time to act. Time gradually passed, and it was time for the fish scale people to rest. Zhao Fu hid his aura and carefully snuck into a system main city. With Zhao Fu's current strength, Stage 1 and Stage 2 soldiers would not be able to discover Zhao Fu at all. Zhao Fu quickly found the city lord. He was a middle-aged man who looked quite chubby and wore some gold jewelry. He was snoring loudly, and there was a beautiful woman lying next to him. Zhao Fu silently came to his side and lightly spread out his emperor's domain, covering the entire room to prevent anything unexpected from happening. The city lord was still snoring loudly and had not woken up. Zhao Fu did not hold back and took out a brain bug and placed it on the city lord's head. The brain bug wiggled a few times on the city lord's head and found a good place to enter. Its sharp body slightly poked out and pierced into the city lord's skin. The city lord finally sensed danger and suddenly opened his eyes. He saw a person standing next to him, and just as he was about to explode out with his city lord seal's power, he wanted to at least make some noise and let others know that something had happened. However, at that moment, Zhao Fu was prepared. His hand gave off a massive power as he pressed it against the city lord's chest. A massive power locked down the city lord's body, making it so that he could not move at all and could not even make a sound. By now, the brain bug had completely burrowed into the city lord's forehead and was crawling under his skin, looking for a place to enter his head. The city lord looked terrified as he stared at Zhao Fu. but he was unable to move at all. By now, the brain bug had already burrowed into his head. The city lord's eyes were filled with pain, fury, and hatred as he stared at Zhao Fu, and his eyes gradually became empty. This was because the brain bug was devouring his soul. After a while, the city lord's empty eyes once again regained their light, but the brain bug had already taken over his body, and his eyes were now looking at Zhao Fu in a fawning manner. Zhao Fu let go of the city lord's hand, and the power that had been locking him down disappeared. Zhao Fu's brain bug acted just like the city lord, and the woman sleeping next to him did not notice anything at all. By now, Zhao Fu had silently left. Using this method, Zhao Fu had continuously controlled 80 or so city lords, and it had been extremely successful without anything unexpected happening. Zhao Fu did not want to waste any time, so he continued to use this method. However, a small mishap occurred. After Zhao Fu snuck into a city lord's room, the city lord was incredibly vigilant and immediately discovered that someone had snuck in. At that moment, Zhao Fu immediately spread out his emperor's domain, covering the room and cutting off all sound and movement. The city lord was an ordinary-looking young man, and he did not hesitate to explode out with his city lord seal's power. However, at that moment, Zhao Fu used the Qin seal's power and stretched out his hand, causing a massive formless hand to easily grab the young man. The young man desperately tried to struggle, but he could not break free at all. Zhao Fu's expression did not change at all, and he came to the young man's side and took out a glass bottle. He held the continuously twisting brain bug between two fingers and placed it next to the young man's eye, and the young man looked at the brain bug in terror as he desperately struggled. However, Zhao Fu loosened his fingers, and the brain bug instantly burrowed into the young man's eye and entered his brain. The young man howled in pain as his soul was being devoured. Chapter 908. After dealing with this young man, Zhao Fu quickly dealt with the others. He used up all 150 of the brain bugs and successfully controlled 150 city lords. By now, it was daybreak, and Zhao Fu started to carry out his next plan. He first gathered all of the city lords and held an emergency meeting. The other city lords controlled by the brain bugs naturally understood what was going on. The remaining 30 city lords who were not controlled did not know what was going on and did not sense any danger. Because all of the city lords had gathered, they thought that something big had happened, so they hurried over. However, after arriving, they could not help but feel angry because they saw the other city lords eating and drinking at the banquet. It was impossible for something urgent to happen. At that moment, many of the people they were familiar with came over with wine and warmly invited them to drink with them. The city lords were too embarrassed to refuse, so they joined in. However, some people had things to do and decided to go back, so no one stopped them. It was just that on the way back, a person stopped them. The 10 or so city lord expressions fell because they could sense that this person was incredibly powerful and gave off a dense, killing intent. "Hurry! Split up and run!" A person suddenly yelled. The other city lords understood that they were not a match for Zhao Fu, so they also ran in all directions. However, at that moment, Zhao Fu disdainfully coldly laughed. The 5 pupils in his left eye quickly spun, and a terrifying power burst out. Countless chains containing shocking power flew towards the escaping city lords. Before the city lords could react, their bodies were pierced by the chains, and they died, and their city lord seals floated out. The other city lords looked incredibly shocked and unleashed energy barriers to defend, but they were not able to last for long. Their energy barriers shattered, and the countless chains pierced into their bodies. They also died, and not a single one of them was able to escape. After putting away the city lord seals and corpses, Zhao Fu returned to the previous city. The remaining city lords had all been poisoned to death, and Zhao Fu looked at them and said, "Quickly take control of those 30 cities and gather forces to clear out the surrounding regions." Now, there were only 150 city lords, and they were all controlled by the brain bug. They naturally obeyed all of Zhao Fu's orders, and because they had made preparations, the 30 cities were quite easy to control. Zhao Fu did not take these 30 cities with him, and instead left them here. Because Zhao Fu wanted to greatly develop this faction, he did not want to weaken it. He chose some of his most trusted subordinates to be city lords, and when he had more brain bugs, he would control them. Zhao Fu did not take these 30 cities with him. Most of the factions in the area were small and did not pose much of a threat. It would take some time to clear them out. Once all of the factions were cleared out and their strength increased, they would begin to move against the larger factions in the area. The countless smaller factions in the surroundings felt incredibly terrified by the changes in the system main city. They didn't know what had happened that caused the neutral factions to take the initiative to attack others, and they didn't know that the city lord had changed. However, this did not attract much attention because this was very common. For the sake of survival, plans could be changed at any time. After taking care of these matters, Zhao Fu once again returned to Qin City. Qin City was just like before, doing his best to clear out regions while constructing the Third Great Wall. This would take a lot of time and would not be completed in a short period of time. Seeing that there was nothing else to do, Zhao Fu returned to the real world. In the real world, Zhao Fu had long since recovered from his injuries, and he had returned to his villa. Just like before, he was incredibly hungry, and after eating to his heart's content, Zhao Fu habitually opened his computer and looked at some other things. Zheng Dong, who had been Zhao Fu's class president during his university days, sent a message saying that his faction had been developing quite well and had just conquered a Xiongnu city. He was now the city lord, and most of his classmates had joined him. This included Zhang Yu, who had been on good terms with Zhao Fu. As such, he told Zhao Fu to go over and give a minor position to Zhao Fu. After all, Zhao Fu had supported him in the past. Right now, almost everyone in the group was fawning over him because in the class, he could be considered as one of the most promising students. Even some teachers were praising him. Because the real world was in chaos, the rumor that the Heaven-Awakened world would devour the real world had gradually been confirmed. Those who were powerful in the Heaven-Awakened world now would stand at the forefront of the world in the future, and everyone was making plans for the future. Some independent people, without any faction, would find it difficult to survive in the future. So many people were choosing which factions to join. The one with the most support was naturally Qin City, as Qin City was about to sweep through the world unstoppably. Everyone knew that tens of thousands of people would submit to him. However, how could Qin City be a place that ordinary people like them could join? Even some large families tried to curry favor with Qin City, but Qin City did not even bother to look at them. Of course, ordinary people like them could not join Qin City, so they could only choose to join other factions. Now that Zheng Dong had become the city lord of a basic city, some people naturally wanted to join him, so it was only natural for them to say good things about him. A city lord of a basic city. Zhao Fu could not help but lightly laugh, so he rejected Zheng Dong's offer. How could Zhao Fu work for a city lord of a basic city? Because he had seen Zheng Dong talking in the group, Zhao Fu had said it in the group, causing many people to feel jealous and envious. In order to curry favor with Zheng Dong, some people said to Zhao Fu, you're not giving him any face at all. Class Rep Zheng is a city lord, and in the future, ordinary people will try to curry favor with him. Don't regret it in the future. Others also said, that's right. Only an idiot wouldn't want to join such a good person like our class rep Zheng. We'll definitely support him. Zhao Fu didn't know what to say, and in the end, he could only silently close the group. Following this, Zhao Fu wanted to enter the Heaven-Awakened World Forum to take a look, but he found that he could not enter the forum at all. He suddenly remembered that he had captured Flower Moon, so there was naturally no one to maintain the Heaven-Awakened World Forum, so he could not enter. At that moment, Mu Gillen walked in with some information. Before, Zhao Fu had ordered people to investigate the remaining dynasty legatees. If he wanted to unify China, they were the first target that Zhao Fu had thought of, so he had ordered people to pay attention to them so that he could destroy them. Chapter 909. Even though killing the Ying family's people would not be a loss to Qin, it would definitely make Qin quite displeased. Since they were going to die anyway, they might as well go all out against the Ing family. Recently, in order to deal with this situation, the Ing family had mobilized some of their armies. After all, China had been infiltrated by the various large families, and they had a lot of power in the real world, so they definitely had some influence in the military. Facing this problem, Zhao Fu thought about it for a while. Even though he could use his true body transformation at any time and did not have to worry about anything, others could not do the same. The Ing family was indeed not very important to Zhao Fu, but as Qin's royal family, Zhao Fu had to take care of them and could not let them die. Moreover, there were many people in the Ing family that Zhao Fu cared about, so he could not just watch them die. Right now, Zhao Fu had no other choice because he did not know how to use his true body transformation. As such, he decided to return to the heaven-awakened world and ask the Golden Dragon. The Golden Dragon gave him a good idea, which was to use the true body transformation magic formation. However, this required a lot of spatial stones, which were stones with spatial attributes. They were quite rare, but with the Ing family's power, they were not a big deal. By now, the Ing family's branches had controlled great cities and some basic cities. Even though they could not compare to Qin, they were still a large faction among player factions. With this magic formation, even if the Ing family was destroyed in the real world, they would be able to immediately enter the heaven-awakened world. The heaven-awakened world would no longer be their world, but Qin's. Zhao Fu told the family leaders about this magic formation, and the family leaders felt incredibly grateful to Zhao Fu and their legatee. After taking care of these matters, Zhao Fu once again returned to the heaven-awakened world and busied himself with various matters. Days passed, and soon it was May of the 4th year. On this day, the sun shone brightly, and there were no clouds in the surrounding 10,000 kilometers. The sky was blue, and it looked quite clean. It was a sunny day. Suddenly, a domineering and dignified dragon's roar sounded out as the clear sky suddenly darkened. A massive aura swept through all of China like a wild gale. A black pillar of light stood between the heavens and the earth, and 9 massive black dragons circled in the sky, giving off an intimidating aura. They were incredibly domineering and could cause all living things to submit. All of China's people's expressions were quite unsightly because Great Qin, which had been silent for a long time, was once again going to wildly expand. A bloodbath was about to descend, and facing Great Qin, their faces were filled with fear, and they couldn't help but feel afraid. Zhao Fu grinned as he stood by the side. After Qin's territory for 6 months, he had the Great Qin's territory, and the Great Qin's territory. Qin's territory had completed. After Qin's territory and the Great Qin's territory. Now, Great Qin was a level 1 Marquis 8 kingdom. Even before the real world had been destroyed, Great Qin had already become a Marquis 8 kingdom. Not many people could do this. However, leveling up a dukedom kingdom was not so easy. It required 3 Marquis 8 cities, 6 barony cities, and 9 capital cities. In actuality, this was not the most important thing. Leveling up a dukedom kingdom required unifying an entire world. Only by relying on the world's power could it level up into a dukedom kingdom. Region power would become useless, and it could only be leveled up by relying on the world's power. This was a very long journey, as Qin did not have the power to unify the world yet. It would take a long time to develop. First, Qin was now a level 1 Marquis 8 kingdom because it had conquered 1,470 regions. It now needed 1,000 regions to level up. Of Great Qin's barony cities and capital cities, the 3 capital cities from before had leveled up to barony cities, which were 7 Kill City, Peacock City, and Demon King City. As for Great Qin's barony cities, 5 of them had leveled up to capital cities, as the Shang dynasty city that they had taken down was already a capital city. As for the other 5 capital cities, Zhao Fu did not use dynasty cities. After all, 2 of the 3 barony cities were dynasty cities, and 1 was the Shang dynasty's capital city. There were simply too many of them, and Zhao Fu did not want to use them, so he developed other cities. The first city that Zhao Fu chose was the Celestial City because its stats were quite suitable for cultivation and living there. The residents were quite enthusiastic about this city, and next was the Sword Mountain City. Zhao Fu mainly wanted its offensive power, as it was incredibly powerful. The third city that Zhao Fu chose was the Disaster City. The reason for this was that its disaster stats were quite powerful. The fourth and fifth cities were naturally the Fire and Ice cities. Before, they had only been gold grade cities, but they had now leveled up to legendary grade. This was because Zhao Fu had obtained an Ice Heart and a Fire Heart from the Heaven Spirit Steel. These two energy hearts were both legendary grade. The Heaven Spirit Steel was a very good item. It contained all sorts of rare treasures. As long as one fulfilled the requirements, one could obtain them. What surprised Zhao Fu was that the Supreme Grade account had not been taken back yet. This made Zhao Fu feel quite strange. Even if something had gone wrong, it would not have taken so long. After all, it had already been 6 months. Zhao Fu felt quite confused, but he could not understand what was going on. Following this, there were the powerful stats of a level 1 Marquee 8 Royal City. Village name, Qin Royal City, Human King, level, Marquee 8 Royal City, level 1, village area, 242,9400 square kilometers village territory, 232,421,800 square kilometers popular support, 86 special stats, territory crop output plus 300%, territory crop growth time minus 300%, population limit plus 180%, resident stats plus 24, soldier stats plus 29%, population attraction plus 250%, high-grade attraction plus 250%. Subsidiary village limit, 2096930 subordinate cities. Fragrant Moon City, Black Soul City, Greatwood City, Water Spirit City, Snake City, Medicine Valley City, Ocean City. Not only had the cities become stronger, but Zhao Fu's Royal Qin Seal's power had also risen by another level. Now that it was a level 1 Marquee 8 kingdom, its kingdom power was even more powerful, and Zhao Fu could confer even more titles to civil and military officials. Qin's strength had risen by another level. Now, Qin had 1,470 regions and 8,820 counties. In other words, there were 8,820 county heads, 1,470 provincial heads, 147 barons, 14 Marquee 8 heads, and 1 duke head. With Qin's current strength, how many factions could they do anything to it? Even if a few hundred factions came, with the kingdom's power, they would be able to easily destroy them. Then, there were the generals. However, Qin's massive population was still quite large. Great Qin's population had now reached 7 billion people and 470 million soldiers. There were 320 million or so Stage 1 soldiers, 2 million or so Stage 2 soldiers, 1 million or so Stage 3 soldiers, and 50,000 or so Stage 4 soldiers. Chapter 9-10. Now that Qin had 470 million soldiers, he had 4,700 basic general seals, 470 advanced general seals, 47 advanced general seals, and 4 marquee general seals. Right now, Great Qin's strength was incredibly terrifying, and it could cause countless people to feel fear. It was like a terrifying monster baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Moreover, he now had 160,000 Corps Soul soldiers, 3,200 Corps Soul commanders, and 3,860 wyverns. Of these, 3,000 could participate in battle. At the same time, after spending so much time and resources, Great Qin had nurtured 5,000 flower devils. After these flower devils grew, they would split into 3 flower devil seeds, which could be used to nurture more flower devils. Zhao Fu did not nurture these flower devils as battle soldiers, but as support soldiers, creating a type of illusion flower devil. These illusion flower devils were not very powerful in battle, but they could scatter pollen that had powerful hallucinatory effects. Anyone who breathed it in would immediately fall into a hallucination. The flower devils that he had nurtured were all Stage 1, which meant that Stage 1 soldiers were not immune to this pollen. At the same time, Qin did not only have ordinary flower devils, but he also had elite and chief flower devils, and a lord flower devil, which was Little Rose. After elite flower devils grew up, they would become level 2 flower devils and could hallucinate Stage 2 soldiers. After chief flower devils grew up, they would become level 3 flower devils and could hallucinate Stage 3 soldiers. Lord flower devils were innately Stage 4 and had all sorts of abilities, making them incredibly powerful. However, because Zhao Fu did not have many seeds, there were not many of them. This was especially so for Little Rose, who was only 2 or 3 years old. Zhao Fu did not know when she would truly grow up and produce seeds. Finally, there was the spider Denver. Because Zhao Fu had only obtained it for a short period of time, he had nurtured 40,000 spiders. As the Spider Empress, Elise had contributed greatly. These spiders were all 2 meters wide and had Stage 2 strength. Moreover, they were incredibly ferocious, and their battle power was not weak at all. They were terrifying, demonic creatures, and just thinking about countless large spiders crawling over was enough to imagine how terrifying they were. However, Zhao Fu also valued their other ability, which was to climb walls as easily as walking on the ground. With this ability, it would be very easy to attack a city. Zhao Fu was quite pleased with the spider's abilities, and it was quite useful on the battlefield. As such, he decided to greatly nurture it. In the future, it would definitely have good results, making it easier to attack cities and reducing casualties. There was also the core. The original 13 core had been upgraded to level 10 core, and their attributes were even stronger than before. Each core could now have up to 4 million soldiers. This was definitely not enough, as Qin's military had reached 470 million soldiers. The 13 core only had around 50 million soldiers, which was not enough to meet the requirements of the core. Fortunately, now that Qin had become a level 1 Marquis kingdom, it could also establish 10 core. After all, every time a kingdom leveled up, it could create 2 core. Qin had originally been a level 5 barony, and now that it had leveled up 5 times, its speed was quite shocking. Therefore, he directly obtained the qualifications to establish another 10 legions. Now that it was a Marquis kingdom, every time a Marquis kingdom leveled up, it would be able to create an additional core. In other words, every time a Marquis kingdom leveled up, it would have the opportunity to create 3 core. However, even if all 10 core were added together, they would only have around 40 million soldiers, and with the addition of the core, they would not even have 100 million soldiers. Qin had 470 million soldiers, so it was evident that it lacked core at all times. Now, it was time to create core. Zhao Fu did not want ordinary core, so he naturally wanted to create special core. As such, he had to find a vessel. The first thing that Zhao Fu thought of was Toba Qing City. The city heart did not have the ability to spawn origin bloodlines, but it could spawn some related bloodlines. The city heart had been affected by Toba Qing's awakening, and it had obtained a bit of origin human power. This power was quite weak, but it was still quite powerful. It was a pity that after Toba Qing had completely awakened, she had immediately left. Otherwise, he would have been able to send her power into the city, and the city's potential would have been immense. Right now, that city was only gold grade, and Zhao Fu was filled with hope as he tried to see if he could create a core. However, he found that its power was not enough, making Zhao Fu feel quite disappointed. A dynasty legacy city could definitely be used as a vessel for a special core. First, it was legendary grade, and the city itself had a powerful legacy power. Great Qin had conquered 6 dynasty legacies before. These were the Hong Bang dynasty, the Shang dynasty, the Jin dynasty, the Sui dynasty, the Song dynasty, and the Qing dynasty. At that moment, Zhao Fu thought of the Water God Temple. Now that Qin had conquered Vietnam, the northern side was facing a boundless ocean. At the same time, Qin had greatly developed the fishing industry and navy, and the Water God Temple could give all sorts of blessings related to water. Now, it was on the same level as the City God Temple, and it was a level 12 Water God Temple. The Water God had powerful divine power, and Zhao Fu wanted to use the water god as a vessel. This sort of core was related to water, as the navy had always been Qin's weakness. Zhao Fu came to the water god temple, and it was already filled with people praying for blessings. As Zhao Fu arrived, the soldiers maintained order and had them leave for now. "We greet your majesty." Seeing Zhao Fu arrive, the water god revealed its true body and smiled as it bowed to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly nodded and nodded. He then took out a core and fused it into the tall water god statue. A powerful aura immediately spread out. It was an incredibly powerful godly spirit aura. At that moment, the water goddess statue gave off countless rays of blue light, and a lot of water vapor gathered around it, forming countless water mists. Suddenly, countless water droplets gathered, condensing into a woman made of water. This woman looked somewhat like the water goddess. Water god core. With the water god statue with powerful divine power as a vessel, after receiving the water god's power, all stats will be greatly increased. All members of the core will receive water god's power, and the core formation will be a water god. Limit increased by 1 million soldiers. After looking at the water god core's information, Zhao Fu felt quite satisfied and went to his second target, which was the divine spider denver. The spider den also had massive divine power, and it was epic grade. With these conditions, it could definitely be used as a vessel for the core, so Zhao Fu listed it as a vessel for the second core. Chapter 9:11. Within the demonic flames, a spider crawled out and slowly grew larger until it was as big as a small house. It gave off a powerful and savage aura, and it stood in front of Zhao Fu before turning into a stone steel with a spider engraved on it. Spider core. With a powerful spider den as the vessel, this stone steel has received a massive amount of spider god's power, greatly increasing all stats. All members of the core can receive spider god's power, and the core formation will be a spider. The limit for the core has increased by 1 million soldiers. Zhao Fu had completed another 2 goals, and he was now 2 away from the original 4. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu decided that there was nothing else that he could use as a vessel. At that moment, Zhao Fu thought of Qin's 5 ghost professions. They were all powerful professions, and if he could develop them into a core, they would be quite terrifying. They would be far more powerful than some dynasty core. For example, the 100 Ghost Illusionist was already so powerful when it was cast by a few people. If 4 million people cast the Dark Ghost World, the scene would be enough to blot out the sky and turn the world into a ghost world. There was also the Ghost Summoners, who could summon ghosts to attack without harming their bodies at all. Thinking about that, Zhao Fu felt quite excited, so he quickly went to the military camp and tested the core. He found that the 100 Ghost Illusionists and Ghost Summoners profession change steels were not good, but the other 3 profession change steels could be used as vessels for the core. This was because the 3 profession change stone steels were quite compatible with the core heart. The other 2 professions were quite incompatible, and even though the human ghosts, ghost god soldiers, and ghost eyes could fuse with the core, they still lacked some power. Zhao Fu went to the Heaven Spirit Steel and used 3 pieces of epic grade equipment to exchange for 3 powerful ghost-type treasures, which he fused into the 3 profession change stone steels. This way, they could be used as vessels. At the same time, Zhao Fu found that the 3 professions had something in common. They all required ghosts to be powerful. The human ghosts needed to fuse with more ghosts to become more powerful, while the ghost god soldiers needed to turn many types of ghosts into weapons. The more weapons they turned into, the more powerful they would become. The ghost eyes was the same, and they needed to fuse ghosts into their eyes to obtain powerful ghost power. All 3 professions could be used in battle. The 100 Ghost Illusionist was an illusionary profession, while the Ghost Summoner was a summoning profession. They were different, so they could not be vessels. Moreover, there was another difference. The first 2 professions only had 300 players, while the last 3 professions had 3,000 players. Because they were all together, Zhao Fu created the cores together. He took out the 3 cores and fused them into the 3 stone steels. 3 massive waves of ghostly chi flowed out, causing the surrounding temperature to plummet. An eerie aura covered the surroundings, causing people to shiver. Boom, boom, boom. 3 explosions sounded out as the 3 stone steels gave off intense ghostly lights, and 3 ghosts giving off terrifying power appeared in front of Zhao Fu. These 3 ghosts' auras were all incredibly powerful, and when they gathered together, the cold and eerie aura they gave off would cause countless people to feel afraid. The first ghost was in front of the ghost eyes stone steel, and it looked like an elderly man. It wore a white robe and looked quite kind, but had 6 eyes. The second ghost was in front of the human ghost stone steel, and it looked quite deformed. It was 3 meters tall and had a well-built body, but it was hunched over because there was a large bulge on its back. The third ghost was in front of the ghost god soldier's stone steel, and it looked quite normal. It was dressed in armor and held a sword in one hand and a saber in the other, and there was a bow on its back. These 3 terrifying ghosts turned into 3 ghost steels and appeared in front of Zhao Fu. Human Ghost Core, with the human ghost stone steel as a vessel. This stone steel has received a massive amount of human ghost power, greatly increasing all stats. All members of the core can receive human ghost power, and the core formation will be a human ghost. The limit for this core has increased by 1 million soldiers. Ghost God Soldier's Core, with the Ghost God Soldier's stone steel as a vessel. This stone steel has received a massive amount of ghost power, greatly increasing all stats. All members of the core can receive ghost power, and the core formation will be a Ghost God Soldiers. The limit for this core has increased by 1 million soldiers. Ghost God Soldier's Core, with the Ghost God Soldier's stone steel as a vessel. This stone steel has received a massive amount of ghost eye power, greatly increasing all stats. All members of the core can receive ghost eye power, and the core formation will be an eye ghost. The limit for this core has increased by 1 million soldiers. After looking at these stats, Zhao Fu felt quite delighted. Even though the 3 professions had been reduced, they were still quite powerful, and they were at the forefront of Qin's core. This was because these 3 professions were incredibly powerful professions. In the future, Zhao Fu felt quite confident that these 3 core would become one of Qin's top 3 ghost core, and they would sweep away all obstacles for Qin. However, these 3 core all needed ghosts, and they needed a large number of ghosts. Only then would they be able to display the power of their professions, and they would not be much weaker than Qin's Jianshan core. As for the ghosts, Zhao Fu would deal with them later. It was a pity that the 100 Ghost Illusionist and Ghost Summoner Stone Steel could not be turned into core, or else Qin would have 5 ghost core. Zhao Fu could already imagine how terrifying they would be. As for the remaining 5 core cores, Zhao Fu placed them on the Dynasty City. After arriving at the Shang Dynasty City, Zhao Fu fused the core into it, and a king's aura exploded out, forming a powerful might that covered the entire city hall. The city core also flashed with a bronze light. Roar! A dragon's roar sounded out as a bronze flood dragon, giving off an incredibly powerful aura, appeared in front of Zhao Fu. This flood dragon was 9 meters long and had bronze scales. It only had 3 claws and a short horn on its head, but it was filled with the might and domineeringness of an emperor. Shang Dynasty Core, with the Shang Dynasty's legacy city as the vessel. This core has received massive support from the Shang Dynasty's legacy power, greatly increasing all stats. All members of the core can receive the Shang Dynasty's legacy power, and the core formation will be a bronze flood dragon. The limit for this core has increased by 1 million soldiers. Following this, Zhao Fu created the Jin Dynasty's core, the Sui Dynasty's core, the Song Dynasty's core, and the Qing Dynasty's core. Their core formations were all flood dragons, as only Great Qin's royal core was a dragon. These dynasty core were not weak, but compared to the other core, they were quite ordinary and were not as strong as the 3 ghost core. However, they were quite strong for a special core. Now that Qin had created 10 more core, their strength would once again increase by another level. Now there was the problem of a large number of ghosts. Zhao Fu planned to create a ghost gate and release countless ghosts to fuse with the three ghost core. Chapter 9:12. In the northern part of the Midland continent, China had 2,000 regions, and there were 5 other countries: Vietnam, Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, and Cambodia. Now, Qin had 1,470 regions, and if he took out Vietnam's 350 regions, he would have 1,000 or so regions. It could be said that there were still 1,000 regions in the northern part of China that Zhao Fu had not conquered yet. These were the left and right sides of China, each with 500 regions. These regions had been developed by other dynasties, but they had either been destroyed or moved away out of fear of Qin. Zhao Fu's plan was to destroy the remaining 4 countries in the north and the regions on both sides of China to unify the north. Among the remaining 4 countries, the most powerful one was Myanmar, with 400 districts and a population of 100 million, followed by Thailand, with 350 districts and a population of 80 million, followed by Cambodia, with 320 districts and a population of 70 million, and Laos, with 300 districts and a population of 70 million. In total, they had 1,370 regions and 4,000 or so city lords. They also had 4 nation armaments, which were the following. Myanmar. The first was the Pagan dynasty, which was the first feudal dynasty to unify Myanmar. In 849, Pagan established the Pagan kingdom. In 1004, the Pagan kingdom sent ambassadors to China to pay tribute to the northern Song dynasty. In 1254, the Pagan kingdom ascended the throne and became tyrannical, causing rebellions to break out. In the northern part of Pagan, the Shan tribe rose and continuously invaded Pagan. In 1271, the Mongol Empire changed its name to Yuan. After the Yuan dynasty was established and destroyed the southern Song dynasty, the Yuan army attacked Pagan. Pagan city was destroyed, and the Pagan kingdom surrendered. The northern part of Myanmar became the Yuan dynasty's Burma province, and the Pagan kingdom fell. Thailand. During the Qin and Han dynasties, the Dian kingdom included Thailand, but it lost control. The second was the Sukhothai kingdom, as it was the greatest kingdom in Thailand's history. In the 13th century, the Angkor kingdom started to decline, and the Pagan kingdom in the west was invaded by the Mongols. The Dai took this opportunity to rise, and they established the Lana kingdom in the north and the Sukhothai kingdom in the south. The Sukhothai kingdom started to expand in the 1240s, and it was the first kingdom in Thailand's history. Sukhothai expelled the Angkor kingdom and fused the Mongols and Khmers, creating the Thai language. Until AD 1438, it was annexed by the Kingdom of Metropolis in 2000. Laos, the third Lan Xang kingdom. The Lan Xang kingdom was established in 1353 AD during the Golden Age of Laos. Lan Xang was a transliteration, and its original meaning in Lao language was million elephants. The country was founded by Phaong, who was supported by the Khmer kingdom, and his power extended to the 12 banners, Sheri, of the Cloud tribe. The capital of the country, Chuantong, was later renamed Luang Prabang. The Lan Xang kingdom was a vassal state of the Ming dynasty and was known as the Southern Palm during the reign of Jiajing. In the 15th century, Li Shengzong of the Yu kingdom invaded the country and established the Jining prefecture in the barbarian region of Chuanan province. The old chief, surnamed Qin, surrendered. In the 16th century, the capital was moved to Vientiane to avoid Myanmar. In the Ming dynasty, the Laos military and civilian emissary office was set up. Lan Xang continued to pay tribute to Yu until 1694. From 1707 onwards, the Lan Xang kingdom began to split into the Luang Prabang kingdom, Wanxiang kingdom, and Champasak kingdom. The Lan Xang kingdom was destroyed. The fourth was the Angkor dynasty. In the 8th century, the Angkor dynasty was established and bordered the Tang, Yuan, and Ming dynasties. When the Angkor dynasty was at its peak, it occupied all of Jinzhai, most of Thailand and Laos, Vietnam, and southern Myanmar. It was the most powerful country in Southeast Asia. Moreover, it created the world-famous Angkor civilization. Because they worshipped Mahayana Buddhism, they built many Buddhist temples. Because of the large-scale construction and conquest, the commoners' blood and sweat were drained, and the commoners continuously rebelled against the conquered regions. In the mid-13th century, the Thai kingdom defeated the Angkor dynasty many times before falling. These were the most powerful dynasties in the four countries, and they had four nation armaments. It could be said that the four of them were Zhao Fu's main targets, not only in terms of strength, but also in terms of territory. The 1,000 regions in the northern part of China were already in Zhao Fu's grasp, as there was not much that could resist. Zhao Fu discussed with the various ministers and decided to send troops to the four countries first. At the same time, he sent letters to all of the system factions in the northern part of China. With Qin's unstoppable momentum, they would most likely make a wise decision. Otherwise, he would have to send troops to attack them. This was because Zhao Fu had already received news that the four countries had allied together. As long as Qin attacked one side, they would definitely send troops to defend against Qin. The four kingdoms had 4,000 or so cities, which meant that they had 400 million soldiers. If Great Qin wanted to attack one side, it would have to face attacks from three sides. This was quite unfavorable, but under the suggestions of the generals, Great Qin did not dare to attack them. However, under the suggestion of the generals, Qin had 470 million soldiers and split them into four teams to simultaneously attack the four countries and destroy them. The remaining 70 million soldiers would be responsible for defending Qin. Even though their forces were about the same as Qin's, they had 10,000 or so city lords, giving them a massive advantage. The other side only had 5,000 or so city lords, which was the number of system city lords and player city lords. Because they had long since made preparations, they could no longer use sneak attacks. After all, it was impossible for them to split into teams and clear out regions one by one, as it was possible for them to set up ambushes. Zhao Fu was not too afraid in a direct confrontation. After all, apart from the City Lord Corps, Qin also had 8 terrifying war beasts, which were the 8 aquatic beast kings that Zhao Fu had subdued. With their strength, they would have no problem fighting against 500 city lords. Last time, it had taken 8,000 or so city lords to completely suppress the 8 aquatic beast kings. It was evident just how terrifying they were. At the same time, there were also many wyverns and corpse soul commanders that had fused with city lord seals. With their current strength, how could Zhao Fu fear the four countries? So what if they allied together? In the end, they would still not be able to defeat Qin. The only thing that they had to pay attention to was the 4 dynasty nation armaments. Zhao Fu thought about it and decided that he would take care of one. Zhao and Mo would take care of one, Elise would take care of one, and Bai Qi and a few other generals would be able to deal with the rest. After making careful preparations, Qin officially sent out troops, splitting them into 4 teams to simultaneously attack the 4 countries. However, right after sending out troops, they encountered resistance. They were unable to use teleportation channels to go to the 4 countries, as there were 2 isolation zones that separated Qin from the 4 countries. One was set up by Laos and Cambodia, while the other was set up by Thailand and Myanmar. These 2 regions were separated by a large number of isolation barriers, and they were all quite well hidden. With so many isolation barriers around them, ordinary methods of breaking through them would be useless. In actuality, Qin had prepared many restriction breaking stones to break through isolation barriers, but they had all lost their effects. Chapter 9:13. The second method was quite troublesome, as the 4 kingdoms had spent a lot of effort here. There were many isolation formations, and some were underground and some were mountains. Getting rid of them would not be a simple matter. Zhao Fu called some people over to see how long it would take to get rid of these magic formations, and they found out that it would take 3 or 4 months. As such, Zhao Fu could only choose the first method. After all, if the entire army moved at full speed, crossing 2 regions would be a matter of a month. The 4 kingdoms had spent quite a bit of effort to stop Qin City, but it was all in vain. A trace of coldness appeared in Zhao Fu's eyes. After conquering the four kingdoms, he would properly deal with them. However, not too long after they started, massive winds started to blow in the northern part of Qin City, forming small tsunamis. Some aquatic beasts were also affected and started to attack fishermen. Even though they reacted in time, many people were injured or killed. This caused Zhao Fu to frown. From the looks of it, this seemed to be man-made. After all, true natural disasters would not appear so many at once, and they were not as powerful. After all, true natural disasters could not be stopped by a person's strength. There were also factions attacking the southern, eastern, and western parts of Qin City. They were formed by system factions and player factions, and they were split into hundreds of thousands of teams. Each team did not have many people, and they did not directly attack the city. Instead, they harassed Qin City. This was quite disgusting, and it was as if there were a bunch of flies buzzing around them. The civil officials had already moved out, and the remaining soldiers were stationed at the Great Wall. Zhao Fu thought about it and decided to have the 8 aquatic beast kings defend Great Qin's coastal regions. With the 8 of them standing guard, with their power, those man-made disasters would not be able to affect Great Qin at all. At the same time, Zhao Fu ordered the people in charge of defending the Great Wall to not take the initiative to attack and ignore their harassment. After destroying the 4 kingdoms, they would deal with them. Now, Zhao Fu had to destroy the 4 kingdoms. That way, the northern side of the Midland continent would be completely peaceful, and Zhao Fu would be able to attack other regions with peace of mind. The 4 armies continued to advance towards the 4 kingdoms, but in less than a day, they were ambushed. There were not many of them, ranging from thousands to tens of thousands. They did not care whether it was day or night, and as long as there was an opportunity, they would attack. With their strength, they could not cause many casualties to Qin's army. Most of the people who attacked them were killed. However, there were still many troops coming to attack. At that moment, Sun Wu led an army of tens of thousands of soldiers and easily killed a group of thousands of enemies, suffering some casualties. He brought all of the corpses to Zhao Fu and reported, "Your Majesty." All of them were players, without exception. The previous waves of attacks were the same. Zhao Fu frowned. Even though these people could not cause many casualties, with their continuous attacks, Qin's army would not be able to advance very far. After all, they would have to stop and defend against attacks every once in a while. This would greatly affect the army's morale, and it would be quite annoying. Seeing this, Zhao Fu felt a wave of killing intent. Since they were seeking death, they could not blame him. Zhao Fu gave off a murderous aura as he yelled, "Send out my orders to use reality-harming talismans. No matter how many people come, regardless of whether they're men, women, old, or young, kill them without mercy." During the 6-day festival, Zhao Fu had used all of his points to exchange for materials to create reality-harming talismans. As such, he had an abundance of talismans. Yes, the entire army replied in unison, their voices loud and clear, shaking the surroundings. They then took out talismans and stuck them on their weapons. A while later, Qin's army continued onwards, giving off a massive aura. At that moment, arrows suddenly shot over from the distance, whistling through the air and giving off terrifying sounds. Qin's soldiers, who were responsible for clearing the path ahead, were prepared. They sent their power into their weapons and vigorously swung them out, sending the incoming arrows flying. Countless shattered arrows fell to the ground like rain. Charge! After blocking this wave of attacks, a general gave the order to charge in that direction. At the same time, a few city lords also flew over. The attackers did not stay behind and did not plan to attack a second time. After attacking, they immediately ran. Most of these players did not even have stage 1 strength, so if they stayed, they would only die. They understood this, so they ran for their lives. However, the city lords had long since discovered them, and they exploded out with terrifying auras as they sent terrifying attacks towards them. Boom! 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 Massive explosions sounded out as blood and corpses flew everywhere. Pained cries continuously sounded out, and the attacking players looked at the city lords in the sky with expressions of terror. However, in the next moment, it was as if they had been trained, and they scattered, running in all directions. However, most of them were unable to escape because Qin's army had already arrived and started to slaughter the players. In just a few moments, they had all been killed, and only a few managed to escape. After clearing out this region, an even larger army continued onwards. However, soon, another wave of hidden players attacked Qin's army, and they were once again killed by Qin's army. At night, Zhao Fu sat within his tent and frowned, feeling quite confused. They had already used reality-harming talismans, so why were those players still continuously attacking? Were they really not afraid of death? Could it be that they were willing to give up everything for their country, even if it meant giving up their lives? Or perhaps they were willing to protect their families from the threat of Qin, which was why they were so fearless. There were people who were willing to give up their lives for their country, but they were in the minority. Most of them were willing to fight to the death for their families and benefits. In order to ensure their safety, they were willing to attack Qin's army with no regard for their lives, which explained the current situation. However, Zhao Fu did not want to slaughter an entire country. As long as they obediently left, Zhao Fu would not slaughter everyone. In other words, they would not necessarily die, and, at most, their country would be destroyed and their benefits would be lost. Just because of this, Zhao Fu did not believe that they would give up everything to fight to the death against Qin's army. After all, most people were greedy, selfish, and cowardly, which was why Zhao Fu did not believe that they would be so righteous and righteous. There had to be some other reason. There was also a big loophole, which was why there were not a single indigenous resident. If the cowardly players were willing to fight to the death, why were there not a single indigenous resident soldier? They all had stage 1 strength, and if they attacked, Qin's army would suffer even greater casualties. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.